A wounded adventurer entered the forbidden dungeon where even legendary heroes failed to survive. Darkness covered the endless path ahead. Deep inside the lowest floor, massive creatures guarded the final gate. The young Tamer moved forward alone without hesitation. An ancient beast sensed his presence and awakened from its long sleep. Heavy pressure filled the silent cavern. The monster revealed itself as the final boss of the dungeon. Fierce energy surrounded its enormous body. Without retreating, the Tamer faced the charging beast and prepared for the decisive battle. The Tamer's attacks struck the monster repeatedly, but the beast remained unharmed. Its overwhelming strength forced him to change his strategy. Sharp claws and destructive energy filled the cavern as the final boss launched another violent assault. The young fighter barely avoided the attack. Realizing normal methods would fail, he summoned the awakened Ultra Slime to counter the monster's power. Another summon appeared beside him, increasing the pressure against the raging beast. The battle quickly turned chaotic. Both summoned creatures charged forward together while the Tamer prepared the final strike. The final boss launched a brutal attack from above, forcing the Tamer to evade while searching for an opening. A powerful strike exploded across the battlefield, but he survived by reacting at the last second. The young Tamer countered with rapid movements and pushed the monster back for the first time. Sensing the battle nearing its end, he summoned Awakened Yogin, tossed to unleash its hidden power. Dark energy spread across the dungeon as countless attacks surrounded the beast and trapped it completely. After defeating the final boss, enormous amounts of experience flowed toward the Tamer and his summoned beasts. Their strength increased instantly. The young Tamer reflected on the true power of his class and the rare awakening ability that made his monsters evolve beyond normal limits. With the battle over, he calmly praised his companions while the exhausted creatures gathered around him happily. The Tamer prepared rewards for the monsters that fought beside him during the dangerous battle. The small creatures celebrated excitedly as he handed out snacks after their hard-earned victory. After the battle ended, the Tamer rewarded his companions with special beast chips that every magical creature loved to eat. He gathered the rare treasures dropped by the final boss and stored them using magic while his monsters rested nearby. Suddenly, dark liquid spread across his body as an unknown force emerged from the storage spell. Shock filled his face instantly. The black energy dragged him deeper into the darkness, making escape impossible no matter how hard he resisted. As his consciousness faded, strange memories from another world began flowing into his mind. Darkness surrounded the Tamer as strange memories, and voices continued flowing through his fading mind. He could no longer tell what was real. Fragments of another life appeared before him, showing unfamiliar faces, pain, and moments he had never experienced before. A black-haired boy named Valius appeared within the memories, constantly mocked as a useless Tamer by the people around him. The next moment, the boy suddenly opened his eyes inside a forest while unfamiliar children stood nearby watching him. Confusion filled his mind as he realized he had awakened inside Valius's body. The memories finally settled inside Valius's mind, making him realize the experiences from earlier truly belonged to him now. A noble boy named Prinzel approached him confidently, while explaining his position as the son of a powerful lord and a holy knight. The others mocked Valius openly, and treated him as nothing more than a useless Tamer without value. Instead of remaining silent, Valius calmly questioned why a Tamer was considered weak in this world. At that moment, he realized this world viewed Tamers completely differently from the one he once knew. Valius finally understood that he had been reincarnated into another world after the dangerous storage magic accident. Although the nobles group continued mocking him, Valius stayed calm and decided to understand his new situation first. The boy suddenly stepped back after sensing a dangerous presence approaching from deeper within the forest. A massive beast emerged from the trees, and Valius immediately recognized it from the knowledge of his previous world. While Prinzel rushed forward confidently, Valius realized the monster was far stronger than an ordinary orc. Valius faced the monster alone while realizing he had no tamed beasts to rely on in battle. Prinzel prepared to attack recklessly, but Valius understood their young bodies stood no chance against the creature. Remembering knowledge from his previous life, he risked everything and attempted to summon a beast for the first time. Valius discovered the weapon dropped by the dungeon boss and realized it matched the legendary staff from his previous world. Holding the staff firmly, he stepped forward while ordering Prinzel to move away from the battlefield. A massive pig-like monster slowly approached the group and blocked their path through the forest. Prinzel confidently prepared to defeat the creature alone without understanding the danger before him. Valius noticed the beast was carrying human remains, proving it was far more dangerous than the others expected. Prinzel charged toward the monster confidently, while Valius desperately tried warning him about the danger ahead. The young holy knight attacked recklessly, believing his strength alone would defeat the creature without difficulty. Valius quickly recognized the monster's special ability and realized everyone nearby was already within its attack range. Before Prinzel could react, the beast activated a terrifying technique that instantly struck his body. A violent explosion erupted across the battlefield and sent Prinzel flying through the air. Valius realized the monster's attack could instantly paralyze anyone consumed by fear during battle. Using the Nimbus Cloud, he quickly moved across the battlefield while avoiding the creature's dangerous attacks. Seeing Prinzel collapse nearby, Valius decided he could not abandon him and prepared to fight seriously. The young Tamer used the Rui Staff's extending ability to strike the beast from a safe distance. A powerful tornado formed around the monster. As Valius launched his full attack toward the battlefield, Valius's attack pierced through the monster's body and finally brought the dangerous creature down. After watching the beast stop moving completely, he carefully confirmed the battle had truly ended. Experience energy flowed into Valius as the defeated monster collapsed across the ground beside him. Relief slowly replaced the tension that had filled him throughout the desperate fight. Remembering the injured Prinzel nearby, Valius immediately carried him onto the Nimbus Cloud to escape safely. Valius worried about the remaining unconscious children while realizing the Nimbus Cloud still obeyed him in this world. An adult villager arrived after hearing the commotion and became shocked after discovering the dead monster nearby. To avoid suspicion, Valius explained that special weapons had allowed him to defeat the dangerous beast. The villager quickly recognized the unconscious Prinzel and realized the situation was far more serious than expected. Panic spread across the man's face as he noticed Prinzel's condition worsening rapidly. The villager confirmed Prinzel's heart had stopped, leaving everyone convinced the boy could no longer be saved. Ignoring the panic around him, Valius stepped forward and declared that normal healing magic was unnecessary. Remembering medical knowledge from his previous life, he searched desperately for a way to restart Prinzel's heart. Valius used electric magic to perform a dangerous heart restoration spell directly on Prinzel's body. Moments later, Prinzel suddenly gasped for air as his heartbeat finally returned. Valius carefully maintained the restoration spell while sending controlled electric signals through Prinzel's body. The villagers watched in disbelief because an 8-year-old Tamer should not have been capable of using such advanced magic. After confirming Prinzel's condition had stabilized, Valius finally relaxed and felt relieved that the spell succeeded. The nearby villager questioned how a Tamer could possess healing abilities that normally required skilled healers. Confused by the reaction around him, Valius realized this world lacked even the most basic medical knowledge he once considered normal. The villager admitted he knew little about magic and could not understand the spell Valius had just used. While preparing to return to the village, Valius wondered if most rural people in this world lacked proper knowledge about magic. The man became surprised after confirming Valius was truly a Tamer despite his unusual black hair and abilities. Curious about his background, the villager asked where Valius originally came from. Valius quietly described a small village located near the legendary Millennium Tree. The villager informed Valius about a special training course created for young Tamers in the region. Interested in learning more about this world's Tamer class, Valius decided the course could become useful for him. Soon after, they arrived at the Lord's large residence where the injured children were taken for treatment. Servants quickly rushed outside after noticing Prinzel's unconscious condition and the panic surrounding the situation. After safely delivering the boy, the villager left Valius behind to explain everything directly to the Lord. A servant guided Valius into a quiet room while the Lord prepared to meet him. Valius waited alone inside the reception room until the Lord finally arrived to meet him personally. The Lord thanked Valius sincerely for saving Prinzel and praised him for protecting his son's life. Curious about the strange healing spell, the Lord asked Valius to explain the unusual magic he used. After hearing the explanation, the Lord admitted he had never encountered such an old healing method before. Then Valius explained that chanting reduced the spell's power and prevented dangerous electricity from harming the patient. The Lord finally understood the risk behind Valius's restoration spell after hearing the full explanation. Impressed by his calm reasoning, the Lord praised Valius for possessing intelligence beyond ordinary children. Recognizing his talent, the Lord offered to write a recommendation letter for the prestigious elite academy. Before accepting, Valius quietly confirmed that he was officially classified as a Tamer in this world. Remembering past discrimination, Valius wondered if Tamers were still treated poorly even within noble society. The Lord explained that Tamers were considered unfortunate because society viewed the profession as weak and unreliable. Although Tamers could control monsters, their combat abilities remained inferior compared to other combat classes. Many nobles treated Tamers as the lowest profession, making recommendations for them embarrassing even for respected lords. After leaving the meeting, Valius realized the discrimination against Tamers was far worse than he first expected. Despite the Lord offering transportation home, Valius calmly refused while thinking carefully about his future in this world. Valius calmly summoned the Nimbus cloud and prepared to leave the Lord's residence by himself. The nearby servants and nobles watched silently, shocked by the strange floating creature beneath the young Tamer. As Valius flew into the night sky, everyone below stared at the scene in complete disbelief. The Lord questioned whether all Tamers possessed mysterious equipment and abilities beyond normal understanding. Remembering the defeated monster, he realized Valius's healing magic and weapons were far from ordinary. After witnessing Valius's unusual abilities, the Lord seriously considered recommending him to the elite academy. While flying home on the Nimbus cloud, Valius decided to learn more about the Tamer profession in this world. The next morning, he left home after saying goodbye to his mother before attending the Tamer class. Excited by the opportunity, Valius looked forward to discovering new information during the lesson. Inside class, the instructor explained that Tamers use contract magic to control weakened monsters as servants. During training, the students violently attacked weak slimes while attempting to force monster contracts onto them. One child proudly celebrated after successfully capturing a slime and making it obey his commands. Watching the lesson closely, Valius became disappointed by the cruel methods used during taming practice. Unable to continue observing silently, he stepped away while the other students kept abusing the frightened monsters. Valius realized this world completely misunderstood Tamers, making true monster evolution impossible through such treatment. He remembered everything his companions had achieved together and realized Tamers possessed far greater potential than people believed. Knowing words alone would change nothing, he decided to prove a Tamer's true strength through visible results. The young boy concluded that this world completely misunderstood the real purpose and abilities of Tamers. Determined to change society's opinion, Valius swore nobody would call Tamers the weakest profession again. Standing atop the Nimbus cloud, he prepared to tame powerful monsters using his own methods and knowledge. Valius headed toward the Millennial Tree, believing a worthy companion awaited him there. Valius arrived before the massive Millennium Tree, a legendary place rumored to grant extraordinary power. He recalled stories from his previous life, calling such places the treasury of Tamers, where rare creatures thrived. Walking closer, he examined the bark's surface. Despite its age, the tree still pulsed with life energy. After sensing its stability, Valius confirmed it was suitable for his ritual. He extended his glowing hand toward the trunk, channeling mana through every vein. Light rippled upward, merging spirit and nature into one response. A faint glow formed above, and a new entity began awakening under his control, his destined companion. Valius analyzed the glowing energy points running through the tree's inner core. A precise location caught his attention. Instead of brute force, he employed a refined method. By striking with rhythmic precision, he generated vibrations that reached deep inside without harming the tree. The bark cracked open with a burst of energy. Emerging from the cavity was a powerful creature cloaked in hardened armor. It stood tall and imposing, identified as a Caucasus stag beetle, known for its strength and intelligence. Even telepathic abilities were attributed to its kind. The summoned beast approached him. Valius stood firm, ready to form a pact with his new elite companion. Valius stood calmly before the towering beetle, offering a polite apology for interrupting its slumber. With confident resolve, he made the offer. His words were clear, inviting the powerful creature to become one of his summons. The beetle paused in silence, its gaze sharpened. Rather than agreeing, it gave a cold, unreadable response. Suddenly, it launched a deadly attack. Instead of a pact, it aimed to crush Valius under its massive claw. The ground shattered beneath the blow. Barely escaping the assault, Valius recoiled, shocked by the creature's violent rejection. Trust had been denied. Caucasus unleashed a violent burst of energy, forcing Valius to brace himself against the overwhelming force. Rather than retreating, Valius stood firm. The monster's strength only fueled his desire to tame it. Slowly, the beetle-type creature turned its gaze toward him. Awakened from slumber, it stepped forward with menace. With cautious resolve, Valius raised his hand and tried to de-escalate the tension between them. But the beast rejected his approach. Snarling with rage, it declared its intent to obliterate him. A devastating impact tore through the ground as Valius stood frozen, eyes wide at the destruction. The beetle launched into the sky at blinding speed, but Valius wasn't about to let it escape. He clenched his rui staff, calculating the right moment. Even Caucasus wouldn't survive its full power. Charging forward with swift precision, Valius prepared to strike, but the monster hurled sharp projectiles in defense. In a final clash, the staff met the beast midair, creating a massive shockwave that overwhelmed them both. As the dust settled, Caucasus slowly opened his eyes. Valius stood nearby, watching in relief. Recalling the moment, Valius explained how the shockwave from the Rui's staff knocked the beast unconscious. Caucasus processed the truth quietly, though surprised he didn't lash out, simply muttering, "I see, boy." Sitting calmly, the beetle questioned Valius's intentions. Why not seal the contract while he was vulnerable? With a quiet smile, Valius replied, honestly, he wanted a companion, not a servant bound by force. Valius offered a round treat with confidence, proposing a fair contract between equals before any agreement. Caucasus hesitated, questioning the gesture. The sight and smell of the chip, however, piqued his curiosity. Without further protest, he took a cautious bite, still unsure if this was some form of trick. Shock widened his eyes instantly. The crisp texture and flavor overwhelmed him beyond any expectation. Now energized, Caucasus demanded more of the food, leaning in with excitement. Valius smiled awkwardly, reminding him of the contract. Valius offered a compromise beast jelly, a monthly reward with the same flavor as the chips. After a brief pause, Caucasus nodded. Then Valius clenched his fist, ready to proceed with the pact. Together, they stepped into the contract circle, magical energy swirling beneath their feet in perfect harmony. Despite his fierce nature, even Caucasus couldn't resist the beast chips, a delicacy among monsters. With mutual respect established, Valius extended his hand. Finalizing the contract, the bond was now complete. Then Valius and Caucasus sealed their bond, ready to face challenges side by side. A towering armored beast stood protectively behind Valius, drawing astonished gazes from the crowd. Children cheered in awe, unable to hide their excitement. Nearby, a man collapsed in disbelief, overwhelmed by the overwhelming pressure of the creature's presence. Suddenly, the creature grabbed a nearby student by mistake, prompting panic. While others shouted for help, Valius remained composed, noting the lack of proper training. Without delay, the beast launched into action, flattening a horde of monsters in a single strike. A massive insect burst from the forest, its claws ready to strike. The armored beast responded instantly, cutting it down mid-attack with overwhelming force. Valius approached his summoned beast with confidence, praising its efforts after the intense battle. The creature responded curiously to his presence. Turning serious, Valius questioned the beast Caucasus about any lingering matters at the Millennium Tree, hinting at unfinished business. Caucasus admitted a personal grudge remained unresolved. He wanted to face a certain opponent named Hercules once more. Explaining further, Caucasus described their long-standing rivalry. Every duel ended in a draw, forcing them into a strange routine alternating monthly residency inside the ancient tree. Hearing this, Valius could only smile. The story matched exactly what he'd expect from the loyal and stubborn Caucasus. Then Valius leaned in close, offering Caucasus a bold promise there existed a way to surpass Hercules entirely. Caucasus froze, his eyes wide in disbelief. The thought of surpassing his lifelong rival left him shaken. To achieve such strength, Valius explained, they would need complete trust. No hesitation, no resistance, only unity. After a tense silence, the giant beast exhaled deeply and agreed. With a subtle smile, Valius thanked him. Moments later, he laid out mysterious engraved tokens across the ground, the first step of an unknown ritual. Seated in silence, Valius and Caucasus finalized the ritual setup, with preparations done. Determination filled the air. Lifting both arms high, Valius called upon the ancient spirit Chilin to grant them divine strength. A burst of light surged as his voice rang out. This was the moment of awakening evolution. Blinding energy engulfed Caucasus. Within the glow, the towering beast figure shifted, power pulsing violently around him. Awestruck, Caucasus stared at his hands. A surge of overwhelming strength coursed through his body for the first time. The sky trembled as a shockwave burst upward, and Valius shielded himself from the immense energy release. Caucasus stood radiating power. Lightning danced around his armor as confidence surged through him like never before. With a booming voice, then he laughed and charged ahead. Valius called out, reminding him to return before dinner. Later, Valius resumed his quiet routine. Reading, training, and managing the new flow of experience felt endless. Elsewhere, two startled onlookers turned sharply, reacting to a distant sound that echoed across the area, proof of Caucasus's rampage. A tremor shook the house, drawing Valius's attention. Dark liquid pulsed unnaturally across his hand. Something had changed. A piercing scream rang out. Valius bolted from his room, eyes wide as he saw his mother collapsed. Without hesitation, he sprinted through the halls, gripping his staff tightly. His pace fueled by urgency, he burst into the open, only to confront a towering dragon, fangs bared. It loomed over him just before the creature moved. A familiar voice spoke. Then Caucasus reappeared, standing protectively between Valius and the beast. Valius stood with a strained smile. trying to explain how he defeated a wyvern in a single strike. Despite the victory, he received a scolding. His sudden return with a massive beast had frightened his mother. Caucasus took pride in the kill. Realizing it was a wyvern explained the heavy surge of experience earlier. After the situation calmed, Valius faced the sky. Something new was bothering him, something else needed reporting. A strange silhouette emerged under the moonlight. His eyes widened in shock as recognition set in instantly. A dark, winged figure streaked through the starry sky, its glowing eyes locked ahead with purpose. Moments later, a massive armored insect landed before a young boy. Recognizing him, it confidently addressed him as Valius. Descending swiftly from above, another winged creature appeared. Introducing itself as Beelzebub, the insect declared its connection to Caucasus and claimed to be an ally as he tried to process everything. Beelzebub calmly explained his role. He was not a mere insect, but a king of flies gifted with speech, intelligence, and powerful support skills valuable in battle. Despite knowing beetle-type monsters rarely cooperated, Valius extended his hand. Beelzebub accepted without hesitation. The armored beetle remembered something and handed over a peculiar item he claimed to have found in the forest. Next, a book was offered. Beelzebub had suggested it would interest Valius, though it contained mostly text. Valius accepted, admitting he didn't mind reading novels. Despite his calm expression, his curiosity grew. He flipped the book around, glancing cautiously, eyes narrowing as questions formed. Unable to resist, Valius slowly opened it. His thoughts swirled. What secrets could this book possibly hold? An urge to uncover its contents pushed him forward. With a gentle incantation, he cast purification magic. Light spread across the cover, cleansing the grime. Valius stared silently at the page, then blinked twice before his expression shifted into quiet determination. Revealed beneath the grime was not a forbidden object, but a valuable study book titled Don't Give Up Your First Choice, a rare compilation of entrance exams for the most prestigious magic academies. Reading in the dark, Valius muttered the names of his companions. A smile broke across his face. He expressed sincere gratitude, stating the book would be extremely helpful. Caucasus brightened at the idea. Declaring a celebration, he promised to prepare a feast both to honor Beelzebub's arrival and as thanks for the meaningful gift. Valius stood with firm resolve as he called upon Chillin, a divine entity, to appear before him. A spiraling gust tore through the clearing. The wind howled, and a piercing light cracked the sky. Moments later, a powerful presence emerged. Towering above them was a majestic beast, its form both elegant and fearsome. Chillin had answered the call. With divine energy pulsing around it, Chillin landed with authority. The air grew heavy. Known as a being that grants blessings, it offered evolution or rare materials in exchange for monster corpses. Chillin observed he, then accepted the pact. A column of radiant energy surged upward. Then Chillin's gaze fixed on them with intensity as it spoke. What do you wish for, awakening, evolution, or flavorings? The question hung in the air, weighty with significance. Without hesitation, Valius answered, flavorings. Chillin acknowledged the request, then demanded the prepared offerings in exchange. Valius raised his hand. In response, several monster corpses emerged from the ground, dark and grotesque, each one carefully chosen for the ritual. Moments later, 2 sealed jars materialized at Chillin's feet. With a solemn tone, the divine beast confirmed receipt of the offerings and presented the items Valius had asked for. With the exchange complete, Valius turned away alongside Caucasus. Valius carefully poured the mystical ingredients into the pot. Caucasus and Beelzebub watched in silence, unsure of the result. With the final mixture complete, a shimmering jelly formed. This was beast jelly, a more accessible substitute for beast chips with equal effectiveness. Declaring the day special, Valius proudly unveiled the jelly feast. He offered it generously, urging everyone to enjoy the results of their effort. Both Caucasus and Beelzebub were left speechless by the display. Under the night sky, the group shared a quiet moment around the fire. Determined to prepare for the academy, Valius continued raising his stats through shared experience, a unique Tamer skill. Focus sharpened in their eyes, Valius, Caucasus, and Beelzebub all locked onto the same goal. A coordinated attack followed, using Caucasus's enhancement abilities. Their insect allies launched into battle with amplified strength and speed. Under Valius's command, the creatures moved in perfect sync. Their formation struck hard, and enemies collapsed under their focused assault. Amid the fight, Valius pushed himself forward. He relied on physical combat and his magic aptitude, hiding his Tamer class to avoid bias. Each strike landed cleanly. Enemy forces were overwhelmed by the mixture of brute force and precise teamwork. Valius held nothing back. Valius made a bold decision. Instead of revealing his true class, he resolved to enroll as a sage. The concept of profession aptitude was key. It defined how effectively someone could use specialized magic with minimal mana cost. For sages, that efficiency extended across all professions. They could mimic diverse magical techniques using far less energy. Thanks to his Tamer ability to share experience, Valius gained rapid mana growth that allowed him to simulate sage traits. Under Snowfall, Valius began intense preparations for the Academy entrance exam. Days were filled with studying, training, and strategy planning. All while hiding his true identity. Late into the night, Valius continued studying until sleep overtook him at his desk. Outside, winter deepened, as snow quietly covered the ground. 4 years passed. Now older and more composed, he closed his final notebook. The time for preparation had ended. With Caucasus and Beelzebub by his side, he began his journey toward the academy. No longer just a hopeful child, he stepped forward, fully prepared to face the challenges ahead. Reincarnated by a rare magical accident, he found himself in a world where the Tamer class once revered in his past life. To overturn this world's perception, he began by forming bonds with powerful monsters, including the beetle, type Caucasus, and the elusive Beelzebub. With his new allies, he decided to challenge the norms by entering the elite academy known for producing top-tier magic users. Knowing the exam was near, he resolved to find a place to stay close to the venue, preparing himself and his team for the upcoming trial. As rain poured outside, he opened the door without hesitation, stepping forward with unwavering determination in his eyes. While estimating the time until the next event, he casually mentioned a 3-hour wait, unaware of what would soon unfold. From above, his sharp-eyed insect companion noticed a carriage below struggling in the heavy rain, clearly in distress. Upon closer inspection, he confirmed the vehicle was stuck, then praised Beelzebub for spotting it so quickly. Before acting, he reassured the eager monster that a reward would follow once the task was done. With a promise of jelly, he called upon Caucasus, who immediately agreed and prepared to lift the trapped carriage. Expecting a quiet evening, Valius estimated they had about 3 hours to spare, if nothing interrupted them. Suddenly, Beelzebub noticed something below. A horse-drawn carriage was struggling to move through the rain-drenched path. After confirming the vehicle was stuck in the mud, Valius praised Beelzebub's quick observation and remained alert. Grateful for the insect's contribution, Valius promised a reward after the rescue was complete and readied the team. He turned to Caucasus for help lifting the carriage, offering jelly as motivation, and the beetle eagerly accepted. Rain poured heavily around the motionless carriage as the horses stood still, unable to press forward. A cloaked passenger emerged from the vehicle, explaining the wheels were stuck in the mud and progress was impossible. Inside, a concerned man expressed hope they would still reach the exam venue by tomorrow, despite the delay. A sudden noise outside caught their attention, causing the woman to turn quickly as tension rose. Standing in the rain was Caucasus, towering and silent, his presence enough to shake anyone watching. The woman recoiled in terror, her face twisted in shock as a loud disturbance pierced through the storm. Startled voices rang out when a monstrous form slammed into view, its presence sending waves of panic. A grotesque slime-like creature slithered from the shadows, its shifting form creating fear in the hearts of onlookers. At that moment, Caucasus acted swiftly, using his strength to lift the heavy carriage with controlled force. Witnessing the impossible, the passengers stared in disbelief, stunned that a supposed monster had just saved them. Valius observed the situation calmly, realizing outsiders might misinterpret Caucasus's help as a monster attack on the carriage. Before anyone could act rashly, he leapt forward on his Nimbus cloud to intercept and diffuse the tension. Landing swiftly beside Caucasus, Valius shielded the carriage just as it was freed from the mud with force. Standing in front of the passengers, he clarified that the towering creature was under his control and meant no harm. Though still shocked, the woman struggled to believe the truth, eventually concluding that his power marked him as a sage. Doubt filled the room when a rare armored beast appeared. No one believed a mere tamer could control such a powerful creature. Despite initial disbelief, one survivor stepped forward, recalling how he had saved them without hesitation. Observing his calm demeanor, the man realized only someone truly bonded to the beast could behave so fearlessly. Gratitude followed swiftly. Villagers gathered around, offering what little they had in thanks for their lives. With a quiet smile, he stood confidently beside the towering creature. His presence and that of his tamed monster reassured everyone that they were no longer alone. A warm smile and parting words marked the end of their brief yet meaningful encounter. Without delay, the group resumed their journey, pushing forward through the cold and uncertainty ahead. As their vehicle disappeared into the distance, he quietly chose not to dwell on emotions. Aware of the potential danger, then he instructed his companions to conceal their forms before moving on. Both Caucasus and Beelzebub responded immediately, shrinking without hesitation, ready to adapt and continue at his side. With his trusted familiars perched on his shoulders, he stepped forward, confidence clear in his eyes. Above a quiet town surrounded by mountains, a floating creature glided ahead, guiding the path from above. Inside the village, he moved through the streets, exchanged coins with merchants, enjoyed a meal, and rested peacefully with his companions. Later, he arrived before the imposing gates of the elite academy, where towering spires loomed over him. Without hesitation, he straightened his posture and declared his readiness, determined to face whatever came next. The academy buzzed with life as crowds gathered for the entrance exam. Among them walked Valius, his expression calm yet focused. Inside the registration hall, he approached the counter and handed over his recommendation letter in a quiet hallway. Valius produced a shimmering item from his robe. Though uncertain if it would cover the tuition fee, he offered it respectfully to the staff member awaiting him. The examiner's eyes widened in disbelief. Holding the item with trembling hands, he recognized it immediately: the legendary scales of Jormungandr, a material few had ever seen. Initially skeptical, the examiner quickly composed himself. Realizing its immense value, he confirmed it was more than enough and accepted it with gratitude. The examiner stared silently, overwhelmed by the rare materials Valius had offered. Even his assistant was visibly amazed. With formalities complete, Valius stepped forward confidently and handed over his documents to enter the exam area. Holding his notes tightly, he reminded himself of all he had studied. As the doors opened, he joined the others heading into the testing hall for the written exam. Seated, Valius received his test sheet. He took a deep breath and glanced around at the tense atmosphere. The first question caught him off guard, but he quickly regained composure, pen in hand. He began writing at full speed, reviewing each answer carefully. Midway through the test, Valius encountered a difficult question. Though surprised, he refused to let it slow him down. With a deep breath, he completed the final answer. Relief washed over him as he exited confidently. Ready for the next stage, outside, sounds of clashing swords echoed from the Colosseum. He froze at the realization practical exams involved live combat, possibly against upperclassmen. Assigned to Arena C, Valius looked around uncertainly. Other examinees stood nearby, armed and already on edge. As he read his assignment slip, a loud crash drew his gaze. One of the fighters had already been knocked out, sprawled unconscious on the ground. Standing tall with a confident grin, a senior girl scanned the field and looked down at Valius. Unimpressed, without hesitation, Valius stepped forward and confirmed it. Spectators watched in shock, murmuring as he prepared to face a clearly experienced opponent. Announcing her name proudly, ADDI declared herself the Academy's strongest second-year student, confident in her reputation and skills. Valius stared at her red hair, realizing its significance. She was no ordinary student, she belonged to the lineage of heroes. As the duel began, whispers rippled through the crowd. Many doubted his chances. Calmly, Valius unsheathed the short staff. Without hesitation, he confirmed that the short staff was his chosen weapon. Doubt lingered in his opponent's expression. She gripped her sword tightly and unleashed a powerful slash, splitting the air with visible force. Restraint no longer seemed necessary. Confidence filled her stance, calculating his posture. She readied to end the fight in one swift move. As the match began, she rushed in. Observers watched as her form suddenly faltered. Sword flying from her hands, curiosity spread through the arena. Some wondered if she had seen a distraction. Meanwhile, he sensed something a hit too fast to track. Frustration boiled beneath her composed expression. Laughter in the crowd only fueled her anger, pushing her to retaliate. Charging forward with full intent to strike, she aimed to settle the score with overwhelming force. Her opponent, however, reacted swiftly. Clashing blades echoed through the arena. He deflected the incoming strike with precise timing, causing her to stumble. Momentum shifted instantly. With one clean motion, her weapon flew into the air, disarmed before she realized what happened. Circling behind her, he used controlled strength and perfect form. Shock spread across her face as the staff locked against her throat. Stunned and speechless, she dropped into a split. Completely overwhelmed by the outcome of the match, silence gripped the arena. When he called for confirmation, even the referee hesitated before reluctantly acknowledging the result. Declaring victory, he calmly turned away. Around him, students whispered in disbelief, unsure how someone like her could be defeated so easily. With steady steps, he exited the field. Though he had bested the top second year, further trials awaited, including a magic test beyond the dueling ground. The next challenge came into view. Rows of heavy iron targets awaited their spells. Magic demonstrations began. One student launched a blazing spell that struck the iron target with explosive force. Another followed, sending a volley of magical energy forward. Observers nodded, clearly impressed by the consistent results. Soon came his turn. Instructions were simple: hit all 5 fixed targets using his magic. Evaluating the setup, he chose a spell tailored for destructive output. His fingers traced a silent chant as power gathered, armed with concentrated mana. He invoked a powerful incantation. Flames swirled around him, signaling the spell's final release. A surge of energy exploded forward as his spell launched with intense momentum. Fiery mana forming into a sharp projectile, targets shook violently as every arrow struck dead center, exploding on impact and leaving trails of smoke and splinters. Raised fists and a confident grin followed his overwhelming display, but the atmosphere shifted when gasps replaced applause. Shocked expressions surrounded him as disbelief spread among instructors and students alike. A nervous glance at his own hand brought confusion as questions swirled in his mind. Charred remains of the targets smoldered amid blackened earth, the damage extending beyond acceptable limits their distance. Valius stood at the center of the training field, surrounded by destruction he had just caused. He jogged over to the examiner and awkwardly asked if breaking the entire test setup was acceptable, drawing a surprised reaction that quickly turned into hesitant approval. Curious and confused, the examiner questioned his chanting method, prompting Valius to explain how he had modified his vocal cords to lift magical restrictions using precise tones, a technique unfamiliar to most. Though she didn't fully grasp his explanation, she acknowledged the result, noting he had hit all targets simultaneously. 3 days later, surrounded by examinees, Valius calmly viewed the announcement board. Valius pushed through the crowd toward the results board, scanning rows of numbers until he spotted his own among the successful candidates. While stepping back, he noticed a familiar face approaching, a tall man in armor who seemed to recognize him too. The man asked if Valius was the same boy who had helped him once before, prompting Valius to smile. Curious about the outcome, the man asked for Valius's results, and Valius proudly answered that he had passed with flying colors. Impressed, Valius assumed the man was a teacher from the elite academy, only to be corrected he was, in fact, the vice chairman of the Board of Education. The vice chairman explained that, with his authority, he could grant a class skip to exceptional candidates, but only if they truly deserved it. He looked over the results list, focusing on number 0415, who had achieved perfect scores, an unprecedented outcome that left him visibly impressed. Determined to confirm the candidate's identity, he vowed to verify the person himself, only for Valius to step forward and casually present his number. Recognizing Valius instantly, the vice chairman's skepticism vanished, and with a smile of relief, without hesitation, he reached into his coat and handed over the one-class exemption letter, granting Valius the privilege to advance ahead of his peers. The vice chairman handed the letter over with a smile, advising Valius to use it wisely. Valius accepted it with gratitude. Afterward, he enjoyed a hearty meal at the academy cafeteria and collected his materials for the new school term. While reviewing the student handbook, he reminded himself that retaining memories from his previous life gave him a clear academic advantage. With purpose, he began marking only the essential classes, believing he could skip the rest and still fulfill his goal of improving the lives of Tamers. Holding the exemption letter, Valius felt confident he could skip core subjects if he performed well in the finals. Valius finalized his course plan, determined to skip the entire term and dedicate himself to independent fieldwork that could benefit Tamers directly. With resolve in his eyes, he summoned his beast and left the academy grounds, setting his sights beyond the classroom. His destination was Merkel's Town, a place known for its adventurer guild and opportunities to gain real-world experience. Upon arrival, Valius approached the large guild hall with curiosity, ready to explore what it had to offer. As he entered, he noticed 2 powerful-looking individuals standing near the mission board, their presence hinting at deeper events soon to unfold. Valius walked with confidence through the guild, aware that attention remained on the sage, but his actions were part of a larger plan. He stepped up to the reception desk and calmly requested to register as an adventurer. The staff responded professionally and handed him the necessary forms. After submitting his completed paperwork and confirming his student status, the guild staff verified his identity without issue. Thanks to his elite academy credentials, he was exempt from the entrance exam and granted a guild card, starting directly as a C-rank adventurer. With the card now in hand, Valius headed over to the quest board, eager to find a suitable mission and put his training to use. Valius examined the quest board closely, analyzing the listed rewards and costs of living before settling on one involving Luna Metal. After making his choice, he submitted the quest at the counter, and the receptionist acknowledged his selection without hesitation. She then warned him that many adventurers had returned injured from this mission, advising extra caution due to its danger. Further details revealed that arrows had mysteriously appeared during previous collection attempts, striking unprepared adventurers without warning. Despite the risk, Valius assured her of his healing capabilities and left the guild calmly, while she watched him go with quiet concern. The barren wasteland stretched endlessly beneath the pale sky, jagged rock formations marking the desolate terrain ahead. Valius arrived at the search site, accompanied by Caucasian, scanning the area for signs of Luna metal deposits. After surveying the surroundings, he delegated combat to his companion, trusting Caucasian to deal with any minor threats. In response, a group of insectoid monsters emerged from behind the rocks, prompting Caucasian to step forward and engage. With incredible force, Caucasian launched a devastating counterattack, shattering the ground and scattering the enemy in an explosive display of power. A rocky wasteland stretched under the glaring sun as the young sage and his companions arrived. They carefully stepped into the terrain, eyes scanning for traces of the rare Luna metal. Noticing movement ahead, the sage instructed the armored golem Caucasian to handle any minor threats. Suddenly, several insectoid monsters burst from behind the rocks, charging directly at their position. Without hesitation, Caucasian unleashed a powerful shockwave, sending the creatures flying and shattering the ground. He crouched low, gripping his staff tightly as dust spiraled around him. Valius hovered behind, observing the sudden tension. From between the jagged rocks, a figure began to emerge. Step by cautious step, the unknown person revealed herself, hands visible in a gesture of surrender. She didn't raise any weapon, nor show hostility, but the moment was fragile, balanced on a single breath. Finally, she stepped forward into the open, her bow at her side, eyes sharp but unreadable. An archer readied her bow, sharp eyes locked on the intruders crossing the rocky field. Every motion radiated tension, her hostility forming a wall that seemed impossible to breach. Valius sensed the danger and calmly ordered his companions to retreat, standing firm against the unseen threat before them. The archer's focus wavered slightly as Valius raised his hand, signaling peace rather than defiance. Determination steady in his gaze. Carefully, he stepped forward. Offering negotiation, his tone was steady, explaining his purpose and suggesting cooperation instead of conflict. Recognition flickered in her eyes as the tension eased. When he introduced himself as Valius, hostility faded. He introduced himself as a Tamer, explaining his unique companions, the insect like Beelzebub and the armored giant Caucasus. The archer listened carefully, her expression softening as she introduced herself with calm pride. Her name was Artemis. Curiosity filled the space between them as Valius questioned her presence, wondering if she was a hero from legend. Her gaze shifted, uncertain yet composed, trying to grasp his assumption. The explanation about her appearance only deepened the confusion. Finally, realization sparked in her eyes. A faint smile crossed her lips as she revealed. The truth, Artemis was not human. Without warning, Artemis began to glow. Her body lifted slightly as energy surged and power gathered around her. A shockwave exploded outward. Valius braced himself against the force, dust and light engulfing the space between them. As the storm settled, he opened his eyes, breath caught in his throat, stunned by what he witnessed. Hovering where Artemis once stood was an ornate bow, radiating pressure. A quiet voice declared it her true form. Recognition struck him instantly. He staggered, eyes wide, whispering in disbelief the warrior was no person but a weapon. Artemis sat calmly and began to explain her origin once. Long ago, she lived on the moon. A comet's impact shattered that life. Thrown from the moon by the violent explosion, she fell across space. Valius listened as she revealed her secret survival depended on absorbing energy from a rare material called Luna metal. With a smug smile, she boasted of her past strength, claiming she could once destroy regions with ease. But now, she relied only on the Luna metal that fell with her, a limited source barely keeping her alive. Valius took a moment to reflect. Canceling the metal collection wasn't enough, something deeper needed solving. Determination appeared in his eyes. He turned to Artemis and made a bold suggestion without hesitation. His proposal, return Artemis to the moon. A quiet question echoed between them. Carried by resolve, she froze, stunned by his words. The very idea left her speechless, eyes widening with disbelief. Hope burst from her lips, but Valius quickly tempered expectations. He asked her to transform. A test was coming. Valius summoned the Nimbus Cloud, stepping aboard with Artemis in bow form and his monsters flying close behind. They soared through the sky, gliding above the rocky terrain. Valius silently signaled to Caucasus mid-flight. Caucasus hesitated, admitting his limits. Valius remained focused, believing this distance could still be overcome with effort. As he considered their options, someone inquired about the staff he carried. Its extension ability sparked sudden attention. A forgotten legend resurfaced. The staff could theoretically stretch 960,000 kilometers. A solution had finally emerged. Gripping the staff tightly, Valius made his decision. If the staff was long enough, he would use it. Ideas sparked around him. Suggestions clashed. Freeze a lake, protect wildlife, find balance. The challenge wasn't simple. Artemis offered a solution. She could reinforce the creatures, letting them survive the cold magic unharmed. The team agreed. The group reached a wide, still lake. It would serve as the stage for their test. Hovering above the water, Valius steadied himself. The staff in hand, he prepared to begin the critical attempt. Valius held the staff firmly as it extended down into the lake, stirring the water with force. Caucasus launched into action, releasing freezing magic as instructed, targeting the lake with precision and focus. A wave of energy burst outward, shaking the surroundings. The spell struck with power, beginning the freezing process. The impact rippled across the surface. Valius hovered just above, watching the frost spread with calculated intensity. Unsatisfied, he steadied himself on the nimbus cloud, preparing for the next step in their plan. Valius raised the staff and smiled confidently. With his companions behind him, he declared their goal the moon. As the group ascended through the sky, he noted they were moments away from breaking the atmosphere. Beelzebub and Caucasus gazed in awe at the stars, mesmerized by the cosmic view. Valius quietly activated telescope magic floating in the vastness of space. They witnessed the moon's surface drawing near. The journey was nearly complete. Looking ahead, Valius felt a deep warmth. The stars above reminded him of a past life, and it felt familiar. Caucasus and Beelzebub looked to Valius, sensing a sudden change in his mood and focus. His eyes locked onto a distant planet. Something was off. It had 4 satellites instead of 2. According to memories from his previous life, that planet's orbit had only ever held 2 moons. Confusion turned to clarity. Valius now realized the truth. This was not the same world he once knew. This explained everything. The lack of chanting magic and taming knowledge proved the worlds were entirely different. The disdain for tamers wasn't random. It reflected a deeper misunderstanding of their potential realization struck. He had been reincarnated to another planet, where knowledge from his past held no weight. Artemis gazed at the vast moon above, clinging tightly to Valius. As they soared through space, they landed on an unfamiliar lunar surface surrounded by stars. Valius stepped forward, recognizing the location. Her eyes widened with joy. Artemis cried out in awe, arms lifted in celebration. Emotions overwhelmed her. This sacred place had once been unreachable, yet now it welcomed her return through Valius's power. Exhausted by excitement, she fell face first onto the ground, declaring herself full of power. Standing up again, Artemis faced him with calm resolve and reached out. "Give me your hand," she said. With a calm expression, Artemis offered her gratitude by placing her hand over Valius's. Valius watched in awe. As energy entered his body, something unfamiliar and warm coursed through his veins. Artemis named it divine power, a rare gift passed only to celestial beings like herself. Although surprised by its value, Valius hesitated. Could he truly accept such power? Artemis reassured him without doubt, her smile unwavering. She explained how their bodies were born with unique circuits for divine energy. The possibilities stunned him. With training, he could bend space, time, resurrect the dead, and remain in contact with Artemis across all distances. Valius gratefully accepted the mission. He promised to try his best and report his progress to Artemis. She offered her support without hesitation, reminding him that questions were always welcome. As she introduced Luna metal, Artemis pointed out the abundance scattered across the moon. At her suggestion, Valius activated storage magic. His arm emitted black streams that swirled outward, ready to gather the valuable material resting beneath their feet. He thanked her sincerely, expressing surprise that something so rare on Earth was freely available here. Before they parted, she gently asked him to stay in touch. Valius turned, walking toward the portal. Before leaving, Valius waved at Artemis with a cheerful smile. She responded with heartfelt gratitude, thankful for his help and companionship during their time on the moon. Upon returning to Earth, Valius entered the Adventurers Guild. The building felt strangely quiet as he stepped inside, carrying the results of his lunar quest. He approached the counter, ready to exchange the Luna metal. A startled receptionist appeared. Her shock turned to concern. She admitted she had feared he was dead due to his long absence. When asked about the amount gathered, Valius hesitated. With a serious tone, he inquired about the maximum purchase limit for Luna metal. At the receptionist's request, Valius revealed a towering mountain of Luna metal. It was only a fraction of what he had collected. The receptionist's smile froze. Her eyes widened, as Valius casually mentioned that he had 80 times more stored away. Clearly overwhelmed, she turned and ran off to alert the guild master. Valius could only sigh, realizing he may have brought too much. Moments later, a massive man entered beside the receptionist. The guild master, clearly intrigued, had never seen such a quantity before. Standing before the pile, Valius greeted the intimidating figure calmly. The mountain of shimmering ores stood tall between them, catching the master's full attention. Hearing that Valius had 80 times the current amount shocked the guild master. The realization threatened their financial stability. After a pause, the guild master made a firm decision. He offered to purchase double the present quantity as a temporary measure. With a grateful smile, Valius accepted the deal. He used his storage magic to summon more Luna metal into the guild hall. Curious about its use, he asked the receptionist about Luna metal's purpose. She replied that it was mostly decorative, but some rumors hinted it could be used to forge powerful weapons. Considering its true potential, Valius decided to consult Artemis directly. Reaching out through Divine Connection, Valius contacted Artemis through the Divine Link. She responded immediately, stating she never sleeps because she's not human. Curious, he asked if Luna metal could serve as a sword, forging material. Artemis paused, considering the question seriously. She explained that without divine magic, the metal would remain a dull blade. However, with mastery over divine power, it could become a deadly weapon. Valius inquired about its performance at his current level. Artemis compared it to mithril strong, but still limited by the wielder's ability. Encouraging him further, she revealed that once his skills matured, the weapon could even slice through orichalcum effortlessly. After their discussion, Artemis warmly reassured Valius that he was always welcome to reach out again. Her support left him smiling. He decided to forge a Luna metal sword as a backup to his usual staff. One blade, he thought, would be enough for emergencies. Without delay, Valius made his way to a blacksmith's workshop. The rhythmic sound of hammering echoed from within as he approached the entrance. Inside, he respectfully called out to the busy craftsman. The large man paused his work to listen, slightly surprised by the visitor. Valius clearly stated his request. He wanted a custom sword made entirely from Luna metal. A seasoned blacksmith turned sharply. Sensing someone behind him, his instincts flared the moment Valius approached. Valius stood tall, meeting the man's glare without hesitation. His unusual request shocked the smith deeply. The blacksmith couldn't believe his ears. Asking for a dull sword was an insult to his craft. But Valius remained calm. He explained that Luna metal, while often dismissed as blunt, held hidden potential. Staring into Valius's eyes, the blacksmith saw only sincerity and confidence. He paused, then nodded. Convinced of the boy's intent, he agreed to forge the blade. Because of the special material, he warned, the price will be 150,000 zor. The blacksmith agreed to forge the weapon, but only if Valius's claim proved genuine. Should the blade fail to meet expectations, the cost would triple a steep price for misplaced confidence. A towering blacksmith faced Valius, issuing a stern condition: if the sword failed, the cost would triple. Valius, understanding the risk, acknowledged the challenge. He believed the craftsman could enhance his divine energy. After a moment of thought, the blacksmith set the timeline. The weapon would be ready in 10 days. To prepare, Valius planned to train in a specific location. The labyrinth, controlled by the elite academy, offered the best conditions. He aimed to test two things during his time: whether he could direct his experience points into divine power, and whether Luna metal could truly channel that strength. As expected, Valius identified the labyrinth entrance and noted that completing his mission here would also fulfill his training credits. At the registration area, he was greeted by an academy staff member, surprised to see a new participant. Valius confirmed this was his first official dungeon attempt. Before entry, the staff handed him a growth recorder, an essential device to track progress and ensure credit recognition. Despite warnings about the dungeon's difficulty beyond the 5th floor, Valius proceeded with confidence. Far beneath the surface on floor 20. Valius encountered powerful monsters. The atmosphere changed, and a beast lunged at him with a roar, signaling the true start of his trial. Valius swiftly drew his weapon, preparing to confront the monstrous threats deep within the labyrinth. He charged head on at a towering beast, showing no hesitation as he closed the distance with speed. With powerful support at his side, he launched coordinated attacks against multiple enemies. Gaining bursts of experience, recognizing the pattern, he focused his thoughts. Conscious effort allowed him to channel XP directly into divine power. This realization confirmed his theory: experience gain was tied to his intent. As the battle ended, Valius spoke to his companion, Caucasus. While his ally was sent deeper into the dungeon alone, Valius stayed behind to conduct more personal tests. Valius observed the reaction of the Luna metal as divine power flowed into it, causing a faint glow. Behind him, the wounded monster stirred again. Without delay, the creature launched itself forward, forcing Valius to concentrate his divine power into his right hand. The moment their fists collided, the divine energy within the Luna metal ignited, clashing against the beast's brute strength. A devastating burst of power erupted, sending the enemy flying. The glowing energy embedded in Valius's strike tore through its target, leaving visible damage. The battle ended with a sharp cry as the creature collapsed, defeated by focused divine force. Valius confirmed his success in defeating Red Echidna with a single blow, surprising even himself. Curious about his next challenge, Valius called out to Artemis and expressed his desire to attempt teleportation. She responded, eagerly intrigued by his request. Hearing his intent to manipulate space-time already, Artemis reacted with concern despite the danger. Artemis agreed to instruct him. She warned that any mistake could be fatal and urged him to pay close attention to her explanation. She outlined the 2 core steps. First, identify the destination using clairvoyance. Second, direct divine power to shift his presence to the targeted location. Artemis explained that clairvoyance involved focusing divine power through the eyes, directing it toward the desired location. Valius tried it immediately and succeeded in seeing a distant path. Artemis prompted him to observe his physical state. As he shifted into teleportation mode, he noticed part of his body was overlapping with the wall. Realizing the risk, Valius acknowledged the mistake. Artemis emphasized that these errors were the result of flawed clairvoyance and stressed the importance of precision. Now fully prepared, Valius steadied his thoughts with clarity and refined focus. He projected divine power toward the correct point, aiming for a safe and successful teleportation. Valius activated the teleportation magic, channeling divine energy through his body as he launched forward. Landing smoothly inside the cavern, he confirmed his arrival with a stunned expression and triumphant voice. Far ahead, 2 allies monitored the area. They were unaware that Valius had closed the distance. Without warning, he appeared beside them. His calm greeting caught both completely off guard. Their shock faded as Valius explained the success of his teleportation. Confident, he suggested returning, caught off guard. Valius stood speechless as pressure mounted. His insect companion demanded a clear explanation. 10 days passed. Valius entered the smithy, face calm but focused. He asked if the weapon was ready. The blacksmith glared, his tone sharp. He reminded Valius of the cost, demanding acknowledgement before proceeding. Silently, the blacksmith turned and opened a door. Valius followed, stepping into a private chamber lined with weapons. He explained every step he took, adjusting the whetstone, refining the heat, but the blade remained dull. Valius declared his resolve to honor the blacksmith's effort, determined to meet his expectations. In the testing chamber, the blacksmith pointed to a display table where the sword awaited judgment. Resting under focused light, the weapon gleamed with a pristine edge and an imposing presence. Without hesitation, Valius drew the sword, his stance firm, eyes locked forward, testing its balance. The blade fit perfectly in his hand, built to match his strength. It felt unshakable. To test the blade's edge, Valius struck the training post with controlled strength and precision. Without hesitation, he advanced toward the next target, prepared to confirm the sword's true performance. A swift slash followed. The post split cleanly, surprising him with the blade's unmatched responsiveness. He stared at the clean cut. Stunned, the motion had been effortless, he hadn't even felt it. Valius stood in shock, the blade still humming in his grip. A massive metal block had been sliced in a single, flawless stroke. Memories of Artemis's warning resurfaced in Valius's mind. He examined the sword carefully. Its sharpness exceeded reason. He hadn't even felt resistance during the cut. Determined to test further, Valius turned back to the next target. The old man's nervous gaze followed, sweat dripping as anticipation built. Raising another dense, ominous slab, Valius grinned. Without hesitation, he prepared to strike, trusting the sword's potential. Again, panic gripped the onlooker. Recognizing the material, he shouted in disbelief, "Mithril." But Valius, calm and confident, already knew. Valius identified the block as mithril, second only to orichalcum. To him, that made it ideal for testing. As the sword neared the surface, energy crackled. The onlooker trembled, sensing the impossible might about to unfold. Steel met metal. With a flash, the blade sliced through the mithril block, parting it without resistance. Behind him, the blacksmith collapsed in disbelief. Lunar metal, once thought inferior, had cleanly split legendary mithril. Thou offered a full waiver in admiration, then Valius politely declined. His sword and actions had already spoken loud enough. Valius handed the payment back to the blacksmith without hesitation. The sword's perfection, he insisted, warranted a higher price. The craftsman, overwhelmed by the young man's sincerity, tried once more to refuse, but Valius remained firm in his decision. Recognizing Valius's unwavering respect for craftsmanship, the blacksmith finally relented. He promised to handle any future adjustments personally. After finishing his business, Valius rejoined his companions waiting by the frozen landscape. He was eager to move forward. Both creatures noticed his enthusiasm. Valius, gripping his sword tightly, looked ahead with excitement for the journey to come. Deep within the 42nd floor of the labyrinth, Valius encountered a towering golem blocking the path forward. Reacting instantly, he dashed ahead, dodging the golem's heavy arm and preparing his sword for a counterstrike. His blade struck true. Despite its massive armor, the golem split apart under the force of the slash nearby. His companions watched in awe. None could predict how far Valius's strength would continue to rise. As another golem appeared, his allies rushed forward, eager to fight, but Valius quickly shouted for them to stop. Valius halted his companions, explaining that the golem wasn't a threat. It was a base golem, needed for a different plan. He revealed his strategy: feed minerals to the golem to trigger a mutation. The resulting variant would yield rare, high-purity mithril. With confidence, Valius laid out the reasoning. His next step would be testing the golem's reaction to lunar metal. Holding a chunk of refined lunar metal, he presented it to the golem. Excitement stirred among his allies as they anticipated the outcome. But the golem remained motionless, showing no reaction. His allies grew concerned. It seemed uninterested in the offering. Since the golem ignored the metal, Valius decided to try something unusual. He reached for umami seasoning. Sprinkling the powder onto the mineral, he gently placed it before the golem again, watching carefully for any reaction. The golem's gaze suddenly sharpened. A sparkle appeared in its eyes, signaling clear interest and intent. Crunching noises followed as it began chewing the mineral excitedly. The group hid behind a rock, observing in amazement. Everyone remained silent, stunned by the bizarre yet effective result. Valius had managed to awaken the golem's appetite. After all the excitement, Valius decided they should eat. Sandwiches were unpacked, and everyone gathered around. Sharing a quiet moment, the group enjoyed their meal. Laughter and relaxed chewing replaced earlier tension. Once finished, Valius turned serious again. With the golem now ready, he gave the signal to begin the fight. At his command, the golem launched their companion high into the air. It was a direct and bold assault. The impact hit with overwhelming force. Dust and fragments scattered as the enemy was sent crashing backward. Caucasus launched into a powerful strike, slamming his opponent with full force. The blow landed clean and heavy. Valius approached the fallen enemy without hesitation. He praised his companion and extended a hand with a satisfied smile. Among the debris, Valius discovered a glowing orb. His allies gathered around, eyes wide with interest. Lifting the orb, he confirmed its identity: high-purity lunar metal, exactly what they had hoped to find. Suddenly, a familiar voice called his name. Valius turned to see Artemis appear, her expression filled with surprise and concern. He held up the glowing orb while the woman beside him stared in shock. Excitement overtook her expression as realization struck without hesitation. She questioned the origin of the high-purity lunar metal he held. Valius held a shimmering orb in his hands, created by feeding lunar metal to a base golem. His discovery radiated with faint energy, catching Artemis's attention. Artemis stared in disbelief, astonished that such a monster could produce something so rare. Although Artemis hoped it could be turned into a weapon, Valius admitted it wasn't much different in that regard. Artemis accepted the gift with wide-eyed joy. Grinning, Valius promised to gather more during his explorations and share them with her later. With renewed excitement, the group ventured deeper into the cavern. More high lunar metal awaited them. Along with the promise of stronger magic and future inventions, Valius and his companions arrived at the Elite Academy's labyrinth. Floor 81. Without hesitation, Valius rushed forward as a massive dark energy sphere launched toward him. Swift reflexes and calculated movement helped him dodge the incoming attack. One of his allies unleashed a binding technique, halting the monster's movement. Confirming the success, the insect, like companions, shouted back, receiving quick praise from their armored teammate. Seizing the opening, their strongest fighter delivered a devastating blow to the creature's head. With the battle shifting in their favor, Valius stepped forward, gripping his weapon tightly. Lightning surged along the blade as he prepared to finish the fight. At the labyrinth reception, a staff member noticed the floor counter behaving strangely. Stopping at level 81, panic set in as reports and data flooded in. Among the findings was a rare item, an unmistakable blue phoenix feather, which could only be acquired on the deepest floors. Elsewhere, Valius exited the labyrinth with a steady pace. He reflected on the quantity of lunar metal he collected and decided it was time to deliver it. Upon arrival, Artemis greeted him with a surprised smile. Valius tossed over a bag filled with high lunar metal, fulfilling his promise. Artemis, delighted by the swift delivery, expressed her gratitude immediately. Artemis gasped in amazement at the abundance of high lunar metal orbs laid before her. She could hardly believe Valius brought so many. As they examined the orbs, Artemis admitted her surprise. She never knew monsters capable of consuming lunar metal even existed. With a calm expression, Valius revealed the truth: they were golems. However, he had to enhance the taste using umami seasoning to make them consume the metal. Suddenly, Artemis noticed a mysterious symbol on the container. Her eyes widened with recognition. She nodded, intrigued. When Valius mentioned the Chillin was a divine being like her, Artemis leaned in curiously, asking to learn more. Artemis eagerly asked what came next. Meanwhile, the Chillin, resting on a mountaintop, lamented its boredom. Valius reflected quietly, suggesting that Artemis might share similar feelings. Instead of stories about the Chillin, he felt something more meaningful could be done. Suddenly, a dark force appeared before them. A new threat descended, its immense pressure flooding the battlefield with energy. In the aftermath, Artemis questioned Valius about his wish: awakening, evolution, or seasoning. The Chillin looked unimpressed. With a furrowed brow, it asked if it had truly been summoned without a real purpose. Valius smiled, unsure how to justify his request. Artemis stepped forward with a bright smile, introducing herself formally to the majestic divine beast. She expressed her gratitude for its arrival. Chillin silently observed her and recognized her divinity. A faint trace of respect flickered in its eyes. With a gentle tone, Chillin returned the greeting. It introduced itself warmly, showing a rare openness in its demeanor. Valius, satisfied with their interaction, announced his plan to gather more lunar metal. He left the two divine beings to bond on their own. After collecting enough, Valius returned. As he prepared to leave again, Artemis stopped him with a confident smile. While speaking with Chillin, Artemis discovered a potential transformation tied to her divine power threshold. Encouraged by the revelation, she declared she would prepare a reward once that change occurred. Before parting ways, he promised to bring more lunar metal next time. Artemis wished him a safe trip, smiling as he departed across the moonlit plain. Back at the Adventurers Guild, Valius was met by his companions. Beelzebub, as usual, expressed impatience, but Valius assured him the wait wouldn't be long-standing. Before the guild's towering gate, Valius looked forward. Determined, he vowed to keep achieving more. His goal was clear: raise the reputation of Tamers through his efforts. Valius stood before the quest board, eyes wide. One particular notice caught his attention immediately. Something unexpected awaited. Valius stared at the bounty board, eyes widening as he discovered a rare B rank request. The mission involved Hercules, a powerful target, with a reward tempting enough to draw high-level adventurers. He wasn't interested in gold alone. Completing this request could help settle Caucasus's unresolved regrets. Without delay, Valius approached the counter, submitting the request form. He stood firm, knowing he needed real accomplishments to rise. The request was restricted to B-rank adventurers. Rules were strict. Though disappointed, Valius pressed on, asking if there was any way to raise his rank immediately. Silence followed. The weight of requirements hit him. Promotion demanded more completed tasks. Artemis recalled a past exception: Gilmas, once unqualified, was promoted to B rank through two strong recommendations. Valius listened carefully. Seeing a possible solution, he decided to rely on provisional adventurers' endorsements. Without delay, Artemis stepped away and returned with two women, the swordsman Messia and mage Aria. She introduced herself with confidence, while Aria, nervous but sincere, promised to give it her all. Valius politely greeted them, revealing his status as a first-year student of the elite academy. Messia welcomed him warmly, complimenting his appearance and expressing excitement about their future collaboration. Valius emphasized the importance of choosing candidates who possessed both strength and character, seeking Gilmas's approval. Gilmas acknowledged his words. He reminded Valius that real strength would naturally unlock higher-rank missions. Later, the team stepped into a barren rocky field, their surroundings silent and tense under the sun. A horde of goblins emerged from the cliffs. Without hesitation, Messia dashed forward, sword in hand. Aria followed close behind, casting spells in rapid succession as enemies lunged from every direction around them. Then Aria charged forward, launching her spell with precision. The enemies scattered as magic ripped through the ground. Her rocket spell exploded on impact. Messia praised her skills while Valius affirmed the value of teamwork. Knowing stronger monsters awaited, Valius declared his plan to attack from above to gain advantage. Without hesitation, he summoned a flying creature. Mounted confidently, he assured the team to leave it to him. Watching him ascend, Aria and Messia stood in awe. Neither had seen such a magic item before. While flying above the battlefield, Valius questioned himself, wondering if his actions seemed foolish beside true talent. Suddenly, two intimidating creatures emerged, killing jabs known for brutal close-range strikes, but weak against aerial threats. Assessing the situation, Messia realized the difficulty ahead. Facing two of these monsters would not be easy. Concern grew as she looked upward. Valius hadn't yet reacted to the threat. Was he aware of the risk? Without delay, Messia and Aria prepared to fight. Acknowledging the enemy's strengths, they adjusted their tactics immediately. A massive impact shook the ground as Valius struck from above, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. Aria fell to the ground in surprise, while Messia stood stunned, unable to comprehend what just happened. She cautiously approached the site of the explosion at the edge of a deep crater. She hesitated. The fallen monster's limbs twitched slightly. Valius landed nearby, his weapon still in hand, ready for more. From above, he confirmed the result. A single clean strike had pierced the killing jab's skull completely. After confirming the area was clear, Valius signaled from above. The team relaxed and prepared to move on. Under the starry sky, Messia and Aria sat down for a break, still puzzled by Valius's strange tools. Valius remained composed as they questioned his flying magic item. His speed and precision had left them amazed. Seizing the quiet moment, Valius decided it was time to share something important he had been holding back. Calling forth a familiar name, he summoned Caucasus. Aria gasped in shock, recognizing it as the legendary magic beetle king. Then Valius sat quietly as Caucasus approached, the silence heavy after revealing his true strength and identity. He stood up and confessed. Despite their assumptions, he wasn't truly an adventurer. Messia and Aria froze, stunned. Valius steps forward under the towering shadow of a massive armored beast with calm confidence. He introduces himself as a Tamer, commanding attention from all around. His declaration stuns the onlookers. To ease their panic, Valius raises his hands, explaining that Caucasus is under control. Though still overwhelmed, the girls begin to grasp the situation. Sensing their fear, Valius gently instructs Caucasus to shrink. As the once imposing beast transforms, the tension in the air begins to fade. Sitting down, the girls process the truth. Caucasus had challenged Hercules, and Valius accepted the task not out of pride, but responsibility. Valius hesitated briefly, considering the situation. One of the girls concluded they should avoid interfering in the matter. Both girls smiled, agreeing that such a significant clash shouldn't be interrupted. They respected the importance of the upcoming duel. Grateful for their understanding, Valius expressed his thanks. With the mood settling, the group decided to rest for the night under the stars. Before sleeping, a small insect appeared atop a girl's head. Beelzebub, another tame beast, would handle their protection. Their reactions were filled with awe and disbelief. Valius quietly reflected on how extravagant the academy was, with even kings among his tamed beasts. Morning light pierced the rocky landscape as Valius stood tall beside Caucasus, ready for the approaching challenge. With calm certainty, he announced their arrival high above. Something dark streaked across the sky toward them. Caucasus narrowed his eyes, detecting the incoming presence. A shadow began to take shape in the sky. The ground trembled as Caucasus shifted forward, his claws carved into the earth. Anchoring himself for the clash, wings erupted from his armored back in a surge of wind. His body tensed, fully prepared for battle. From behind the rocky cliffs, the girls watched in shock as the long-anticipated opponent finally appeared. Hercules mocked his rival with laughter and sharp words. He questioned Caucasus' sudden disappearance, and the bond formed with a human, expressing disbelief. As disbelief turned into disdain, Hercules struggled to understand how someone like Caucasus could become a tamed beast. The idea seemed beneath him, rather than justify himself. Caucasus answered with action. He readied for battle, wings humming with energy and challenge written in his stance. Accepting the invitation without hesitation, Hercules launched forward. The clash between the two mighty beasts was about to begin, both ready to settle a long-standing rivalry. Hercules launched first, his expression fierce and determined. A surge of energy cracked the air as he accelerated. The impact tore across the battlefield, sending chunks of earth flying. Hercules had struck with overwhelming force. Watching from the side, Valius quickly realized the threat. The others were shocked by the intensity and speed of the attack, barely able to follow it with their eyes. Both colossal beasts leapt high, crashing into each other mid-air. The ground below fractured from the sheer power behind their blows. Despite the clash, Hercules grinned. His opponent's strength had exceeded expectations, and he welcomed the challenge without hesitation. Caucasus lunged through the air with incredible force, wings vibrating as he descended rapidly toward his opponent. The strike landed with precision. Hercules recoiled, the impact resonating through his armor, forcing him back. A massive whirlwind erupted across the battlefield, stirring dust and debris into a violent spinning storm. From a distance, the observers were caught off guard. The tornado's speed and aggression shocked them, forcing Valius to summon the flying Nimbus for safety. Now sheltered by the floating cloud, The group watched as the raging storm continued below. Relief spread among them as they realized they had narrowly avoided disaster. Driven by rage, Hercules declared his intent to crush his foe. Power surged around him as he prepared to strike with a devastating charge. Lightning sparked through the sky the moment his attack landed. The battlefield exploded into a storm of energy and debris. From a distance, Valius and the others watched in stunned silence. The explosion masked everything: sight, sound, and certainty. The dust slowly settled. Caucasus began to rise again, partially buried but clearly not defeated, his stance unwavering. With a fierce roar, he counterattacked, launching upward with renewed strength. The fight between titans was far from over. The battle ended with an overwhelming victory. Valius calmly walked forward, acknowledging Caucasus's effort without hesitation. Earlier, a fierce tornado had erupted, swallowing the fighters mid-conflict. The raging winds masked what truly occurred within that storm of chaos. While inside the vortex, Caucasus initiated a sudden and precise attack, landing a sharp blow against Hercules' flank before he could react. Without slowing, Caucasus rapidly increased his spin. The speed of rotation became too much for Hercules, who failed to follow the movement and lost his balance mid-air. The final strike sent Hercules crashing violently into the earth. Debris flew in all directions as his body hit the ground. To ensure the enemy stayed down, Caucasus unleashed an electric shock as a final finishing blow. Shocked by the ease of victory, the observers stood in disbelief. Awakening evolution had clearly enhanced Caucasus beyond their expectations. As Valius processed the situation, Artemis rushed in with alarming news. Something unnatural had occurred, and it couldn't be explained by normal logic. Trouble quickly escalated when another warrior reported Chilin's worsening condition. Concern filled Valius's face as he heard the name. Without delay, he turned toward the source. Determined to intervene, he approached the beast and prepared to speak directly to Chilin. Facing Chilin, Valius noticed its weakened state. A sudden realization struck: perhaps the vermilion bird seal had broken. Chilin confirmed the suspicion. The ancient seal could no longer hold, and its limit had finally been reached. Understanding the situation, Valius recalled Chilin's duty to contain the evil gods: vermilion bird, white tiger, black tortoise, and azure dragon. Over time, even divine seals degrade. To protect humanity, Chilin had sealed these powerful beings inside himself, but that protection could not last forever. The seal's failure explained everything. The vermilion bird, known for absorbing and controlling magical beasts, must have amplified Hercules' strength unnaturally. Valius confirmed only one entity had escaped. Chilin, weakened and solemn, responded with a direct request. The task was grave: eliminate the vermilion bird. Only a human with magic could erase a god forever. Understanding the urgency, Valius accepted. Chilin pleaded for swift action before the world faced irreversible destruction. While walking away, Valius reflected on how unfair it was that the duty fell solely on Chilin, a guardian burden, despite Tamer's being viewed as the lowest class. Meanwhile, those observing from afar realized the truth: Hercules' overwhelming strength hadn't been natural. It was artificially enhanced. Valius chose to pursue the true enemy alone. The others, acknowledging their limits, offered support from afar and took responsibility for reporting back to the guild. With gratitude, Valius thanked his allies. Their encouragement gave him strength as he prepared to face what lay ahead. Meanwhile, the defeated warrior admitted his loss aloud. The realization shook him, his pride deeply wounded. Broken in spirit, he asked Hercules to end his life swiftly. The weight of failure seemed unbearable, but Hercules refused, declaring that death was too simple. He commanded his opponent to leave. Though angry, he restrained himself, letting the loser live with the consequence of disgrace. Valius issued the command without hesitation. As the defeated figure fled into the sky, he ordered pursuit. They tracked the enemy's flight across the mountains and into the darkening skies, approaching the heart of danger. Suspicion grew as Hercules suddenly stopped moving mid-air. Valius activated Heaven's Eye to scout the area from afar. A mysterious, ominous silhouette appeared on the horizon, two towering structures surrounded by dark energy. Then Valius's expression stiffened. What he sensed wasn't the vermilion bird. Hercules' master was someone or something else entirely. The skeletal hand curled with menace. The figure declared coldly he was merely a disciple of the vermilion bird. Before them stood Zequel, the fallen angel. His twisted form radiated malice, causing instant alarm among the group. Valius and his allies were spotted. As combat erupted, he quickly delegated Hercules would be left to the others while he took on Zequel himself. Hercules engaged the foe with defiance. Confident, he warned that breaking his defensive boundary would not be so simple. Meanwhile, Valius soared away unexpectedly. Zequel roared after him in fury, demanding to know his destination. Charging forward, the young warrior deflected Zaquel's insult, appearing suddenly with a surge of magical power. Zaquel reeled back in shock as Valius, wielding his blade midair, tore through space to confront him directly. Without hesitation, Valius struck from above. The attack landed cleanly, sending the shadowy figure staggering under the force. Valius charged in without hesitation, his blade aimed directly at the towering enemy clad in ceremonial robes. As the counterattack came, Valius twisted his body and narrowly evaded the blow. His speed left nearby allies stunned, unable to believe he had dodged such a close-range strike with perfect timing. The enemy stared at his own hand, trembling as unfamiliar energy rippled through the air. Consumed by rage, the enemy raised his arm and cast a massive spell into the sky. Black orbs and magical circuits spiraled outward as he vowed revenge, his voice echoing across the battlefield. Through the blinding magic, Valius moved forward with steady focus. His sharp gaze never left the enemy. The sky erupted with dark orbs as Valius dashed through the collapsing magic field. Narrowly avoiding impact, a massive beam tore through the battlefield, aiming to crush him under sheer magical pressure. The robed figure snarled in frustration and launched another blast of concentrated energy, his outstretched hand glowing. Valius remained undeterred, the intense light reflecting in his determined eyes as he charged forward. With his sword raised and focus sharpened, Valius hurled himself toward the enemy with unwavering force. A monstrous claw lashed out in desperation, but Valius twisted mid-air, evading the strike by inches. Victory was within reach. Valius slowed to a stop, eyes narrowed as unease crept in. He was certain he had evaded every attack, yet something still felt off, as if danger hadn't passed. His body tensed as the world distorted around him. Time itself felt heavier. Realization struck. It wasn't speed that changed, but spatial interference manipulating his perception. Zaquel sneered at the struggling Tamer, mocking his efforts. To him, magical ability meant little if the user bore a lowly title. Despite the shifting battlefield, Valius maintained his composure. The source of the disturbance was now clear, and clarity gave him the edge he needed to act decisively. With a deep breath, Valius released a surge of energy through his limbs. Zaquel hurled a piercing strike, but Valius surged forward beneath the blow, his enhanced body absorbing the force. A stunned expression crossed Zaquel's face as his arm began to disintegrate, corrupted by the backlash of his own spell. Kneeling in disbelief, the enemy stared up at Valius' space. Time interference had failed. Valius spoke firmly, unaffected by the earlier manipulation. He demanded the location of the vermilion bird, confident that no distortion could hinder him anymore. Falling back in fear, Zaquel shouted desperately, claiming ignorance. Still, he trembled at the raw magical power. Valius wielded a power unlike any human he had ever faced. Valius noticed the enemy trembling, overtaken by panic. He hesitated, aware that pushing further might drive the angel to self-destruction. Still hoping to extract more information, Valius watched closely as the angel's voice faltered. Despite his unstable state, something in his posture shifted. Without warning, Zaquel raised his voice and declared his own ability to travel through space. In the next instant, a surge of energy burst forth, ripping through the ground. Valius braced against the shockwave, realizing too late that Zaquel had triggered a spatial escape. As the dust cleared, Valius scanned the area and gasped. Zaquel had vanished completely, leaving no trace behind. Staring into the distance, Valius analyzed the battlefield with Zaquel's power fading. He signaled to Caucasus. Caucasus received the command instantly. He shifted into full defensive mode, positioning himself to absorb the next onslaught. Valius observed carefully, but Hercules misinterpreted the moment as overconfidence. With a sly grin, he claimed certain victory, unaware of the strategy unfolding around him. Meanwhile, Zaquel's form appeared once more, melded into a massive tree. He muttered in exhaustion that what he was doing bordered on self-destruction, yet he continued, cornered and desperate. Zaquel prepared to end his current existence and reincarnate, but before he could act, Valius delivered a powerful strike to Zaquel's head, disrupting the enemy's final attempt to escape, staggering back in pain. Zaquel let out a distorted scream. His body convulsed uncontrollably as sparks of corrupted magic surged from the wound, signaling total breakdown. Meanwhile, Hercules endured overwhelming pressure from his opponent. Though briefly overpowered, he held his ground, refusing to fall despite the intense heat burning around him. He suddenly turned the tide. With a swift movement and a smirk, he deflected the enemy's attack. Raising his thumb, Hercules stood tall, showing no sign of weakness. From the base of the ruined tree, Valius glanced back and returned the gesture with confidence. The corruption around the ancient beast vanished, leaving behind only its massive skeletal remains. As the situation calmed, Valius summoned Beelzebub and requested him to call Mishia's team. He needed to discuss Hercules' condition with everyone involved. Approaching Hercules, Valius inquired about his state. Recognition sparked when Hercules confirmed his connection to Caucasus. He expressed gratitude for being freed and acknowledged Valius's role. With a somber tone, he mentioned that everything started after Valius left the Millennium Tree. He began to explain. About a month after Valius's departure, Hercules continued his life inside the Millennium Tree as usual until something changed. Then Hercules couldn't accept Zaquil's death so easily. Doubt crept in, pushing him to leave the tree behind. While traveling across unfamiliar regions, he encountered a cloaked figure under the moonlight. That meeting changed everything. The figure asked him a single question: "Do you want power?" Driven by uncertainty and purpose, Hercules accepted without hesitation. An overwhelming surge of strength erupted from within, reshaping his form. Despite the immense strength, Hercules quickly realized something was wrong. Every movement felt unnatural, every strike no longer his own. From that moment on, he became nothing more than a vessel. The shadowy figure pulled the strings, and Hercules carried out his will, helpless to resist. Reduced to a servant, Hercules carried out brutal tasks without purpose, striking down weak enemies like pests. His days blurred with meaningless fights, victory held no satisfaction. In that haze, a familiar figure suddenly appeared: Caucasus. Under command, Hercules was forced to act. His body moved not by will, but by the puppeteer's voice demanding destruction. He lowered his gaze in silence. For a moment, something inside him stirred. A smirk broke through the chains. At last, a challenge stood before him. Caucasus, strong enough to match his current power, ignited a long-lost thrill. With a calm tone, Hercules recalled the result: he had been defeated by Caucasus in their clash. Even while under control, that battle brought him the most joy. It was the only moment that felt real. He admitted surprise at the outcome and thanked Valius once again for ending his torment. Valius speculated that the subjugation quest might have been issued due to the forced labor. Hercules, now free, asked if there was more he should know. Beelzebub returned with news. Mishia's group had been located. Valius, ready to move forward, responded without hesitation and prepared to join them. Valius assured them that the source of corruption had been eliminated. Relief spread, but concern remained for Hercules' future. Though the danger had passed, Valius expressed uncertainty about how the quest giver would respond. The girl proposed an unexpected idea: what if Hercules could be tamed? She explained the two types of subjugation quests: hunting for materials or eliminating magic beast threats. For Hercules, whose danger had been neutralized, taming him would fulfill the conditions. The logic was sound and might offer a peaceful resolution. Despite understanding, Valius hesitated. He didn't want to tame another beetle-type beast and hoped another capable tamer might accept Hercules instead. A young girl stepped forward, suggesting her sister, also a tamer, could take responsibility for Hercules. Valius agreed, noting that the decision ultimately rested with Hercules himself. With that, he prepared to leave. Before departing, he turned back and addressed Hercules directly. The beetle warrior reflected aloud on what might have been his fate. Then Valius revealed that the offer had reached Hercules through Caucasus and Beelzebub. Now, the final decision lay with him. After a moment of thought, Hercules accepted the offer. Life as a tamed beast didn't sound so bad, especially with freedom finally in sight. In Merkel, Valius walked alongside the girl, acknowledging that the final decision now rested with her sister. Hercules remained optimistic, curious about the person who might become his new master. The girl, still unsure, expressed hesitation. With a cheerful smile, she opened the door and went to call her sister without delay. A younger girl appeared with a warm greeting, her eyes shining with excitement as she introduced herself to the group. Fina stepped forward confidently, introducing herself with a bright voice. Her cheerful energy instantly filled the space. Moments later, she spotted a beetle-like creature hovering in the air. Its name was Hercules. Fina's eyes widened as she noticed the creature's shining horn. A sense of awe spread across her face as she took in the polished gleam radiating from Hercules. Unable to contain her excitement, she praised the sparkling appearance with sincere admiration. Valius asked if she wanted to tame Hercules. Without hesitation, Fina confirmed her desire. Her heart was set, and her smile made it clear Hercules was special to her. Fina asked with surprise if taming Hercules was truly allowed. With a firm smile, he agreed. In a swirl of power and smoke, the contract was sealed. Hercules stood towering above her, their connection now official. Fina stared up in amazement, her eyes shining. Afterward, she carefully approached him, trying to climb up his bulky armor. With a small effort, perched high on Hercules' shoulder, Fina looked out joyfully, Observers watched with quiet admiration as her bond deepened. Meanwhile, Hercules enjoyed the food she provided, especially the unique spices. A conversation nearby revealed he had already praised her cooking, another sign of growing trust between them. Valius offered Fina a magical paper, explaining he planned to share it with her anyway. She agreed to listen, curious about what he would reveal next. He explained that learning this magic would help her strengthen her bond with Hercules. She accepted the paper and read it aloud. The words summoned a mystical presence. A majestic creature appeared in response, Kirin, the divine beast. Fina stared in disbelief. It offered her a choice between two items, an evolution ingredient or seasoning powder. Panic set in as a voice echoed in her head. Flustered, she shouted, seasoning powder. Repeatedly, a mysterious hole opened before Fina's eyes, catching her by surprise. Valius calmly instructed her to drop in material from a magic beast. He explained that cooking was key to deepening bonds with tame beasts. A good meal, especially one made with care, could bring them closer than anything else. Fina's face lit up with understanding. Valius added that Hercules could help gather ingredients if needed. Meanwhile, he stood confidently before the dragon Kirin, having already dealt with Zaquil. The dragon acknowledged Valius's efforts. It was impressed to hear he dealt with the vermilion bird's disciple. Despite Zaquil's defeat, locating the vermilion bird remained difficult. It would soon strengthen its forces. Valius stood before a looming shadow, determined to act. With limited options, he focused on refining the high-grade Luna metal in his possession to increase his power. Time passed slowly as he processed the rare materials. 2 months later, under the moonlit sky, he walked across the barren land, carrying the refined Luna metal. Eventually, he reached a familiar figure. Artemis turned at the sound of his voice. Her expression softened as recognition set in, surprise briefly flashing across her face. With a wide smile, she welcomed him warmly. Valius confirmed the delivery. Fulfilling the promise he had made, Valius handed over the Luna metal, but Artemis asked him to wait. As she left, he reflected on how the magical power around her seemed to have changed. Concerned, Artemis asked if something troubled him. Valius admitted his current strength wasn't enough. With a knowing smile, Artemis recalled a story about a reward. She hinted at a possible solution and called for Valius's tamed beast to come forward. She boldly declared that she would grant them the highest strength. The name of this power was Evolution Awakening, a transformation unlike any before. Caught off guard by the dramatic announcement, Valius could only react in stunned silence. At Artemis's command, Caucasus activated his transformation. With a burst of lightning and raw energy, he revealed his newly awakened form. Artemis smiled confidently. Unlike Chiron, her power worked differently, and this difference enabled something unique, a resonant effect. She seemed certain it would push them even further. Valius stood speechless, struggling to process what he heard. His partner, equally stunned, echoed the confusion. Evolution Awakening was one thing, but now she confirmed it without hesitation. What was unfolding before them wasn't just power, it was the Evolution Awakening of Evolution Awakening. Before he could respond, a powerful figure appeared from the darkness. A new threat loomed, its aura oppressive and monstrous. Artemis declared a new power. Caucasus stood shocked, realizing he had entered the stage of Compound Evolution Awakening. A massive surge of energy burst from the center of the battlefield, shaking the ground with raw force. As the dust settled, Valius and Artemis stared at the growing silhouette within the smoke. Shock filled their expressions. The figure stepped forward, no longer the familiar form they knew. Caucasus now towered in evolved armor, radiating intense power. Valius approached cautiously, unable to hide his confusion. His companion's form had changed drastically, and the shift was undeniable. Despite the transformation, Caucasus reassured them with firm confidence. Strength coursed through him like never before, fully awakened. Artemis, undaunted, looked ahead, ready to face the next magical beast, without hesitation. Shock filled the insect-like creature as it realized power was being directed toward it. Evolution had chosen an unexpected candidate. Lightning gathered around the untamed magic beast. Valius stepped back, eyes wide, sensing the incoming transformation. Moments later, the creature pulsed with power. It had grown immensely strong, radiating force beyond reason. Artemis confirmed its potential would multiply further. Valius, encouraged by their success, requested more enhancements. He sought to fortify his mental strength with high Luna metal. Artemis agreed without hesitation. Gratitude filled the air as Artemis prepared to depart. Her offer of future support lingered as stars twinkled above. Eager to test his enhanced strength, Valius stood tall beside Caucasus. Confidence lit up his face. The path ahead became clear. Within the labyrinth under the elite academy, a master awaited. Subjugating it would grant them rare materials needed for further evolution. In the past, Hesitation held him back. Now, power surged through him, there was no reason to retreat anymore. Caucasus beamed with excitement, his evolution complete. Encouragement echoed between them. They were no longer afraid of any threat. At the entrance to the 100th floor, Valius recalled a familiar presence. Determination hardened his gaze together. They advanced into the darkness. With a steady hand, Valius pushed open the massive door. His footsteps echoed into the chamber beyond. Light from the doorway spilled across the floor. Deep within, a towering silhouette stirred in the shadows. Caucasus's voice grew tense. Before them stood the master of the deepest floor, an imposing, avian creature pulsing with power. The beast loomed closer, its feathers flared with energy, and behind it, an armored figure emerged even larger. Finally, the full threat revealed itself, a colossal warrior gripping the evolved bird like a pet. The team stood dwarfed by sheer scale. Caucasus and Valius stood frozen. The fire giant Surt held the fallen blue phoenix like a trophy. His sheer presence exuded overwhelming power. A terrifying grin split Surt's face beneath his helmet. His monstrous features twisted into a sadistic expression of triumph. Without hesitation, Surt bit deep into the blue phoenix, crushing bone and feather alike in a single merciless strike. Beelzebub stepped forward. Aura flaring, the enemy's gaze shifted sharply, locking onto the one radiating fierce resolve. With unwavering eyes, Beelzebub declared himself ready. He turned to Valius, promising to handle the battle alongside his evolved companion. Valius gave a nod from behind. With a confident smile, Beelzebub and Caucasus turned toward the battle ahead. A fierce surge of power exploded from them both. The attack launched forward with intensity. Pushing through the flames, Surt staggered. Roaring as an unexpected force cracked through his defense, the battlefield trembled under the impact. From the blast, Valius observed the explosion. He realized poison had been laced into Surt's flames, triggering a chain reaction. Floating midair, Beelzebub cheered. Artemis's enhancements had unlocked a new arsenal of poisons, each one now far deadlier. Electricity surged through Beelzebub's body with a loud battle cry. He launched forward, Caucasus followed, fists primed for impact. The fire giant Surt swung his massive blade, cutting through the air with devastating force and pressure. Beelzebub evaded the strike narrowly. Caucasus struck the giant's chest, creating a massive shockwave that ripped across the ground. Dust exploded outward as the impact tore the earth apart. Surt staggered, a crack running along his leg. From a distance, Valius and Beelzebub watched in disbelief. Amid the smoke, one of Surt's eyes launched into the air, detached. Caucasus gathered energy in his fist. Lightning surged outward as he lunged, aiming a decisive blow toward the enemy. Valius stood before a towering armored beast, watching as his summoned creature unleashed crushing force. The battlefield shook. After collecting the spoils, Valius turned his attention towards summoning a higher entity. He invoked Kirin, hoping to trade for a powerful awakening material. A divine presence emerged from swirling light. Kirin, a majestic spirit beast, appeared and accepted the offer. Valius raised his hand, clearly prepared for the next stage. The air trembled as boulders levitated unnaturally. Energy pulsed between them, forming the gateway needed for the evolution ritual. Surrounded by floating stones and light, Valius faced the awakening force. His path as a tamer was about to ascend. Valius retrieved a glowing emblem, its symbol clear, one fragment of the materials needed for awakening. Currently holding only the design drawing, he recalled 6 essential elements required to complete the process. However, each material must be exchanged from the same magic beast type, limiting collection strategies. From past knowledge, he remembered Senrio Island and Senrio Continent, known for their powerful labyrinth-dwelling beasts. Stopping by a guild board, he asked a clerk if such places existed here. Her interest piqued. She tried to recall any known islands or continents matching his description. With a cheerful grin, Valius watched the clerk freeze in utter shock at his casual statement. She slammed the counter in alarm, confirming the location Jaiketsu Island, and asked if he truly intended to go. Valius questioned the island's location, but her expression turned stiff. The place was restricted to a rank adventurers. Despite her concern, she admitted the truth. The island was deadly, with survival rates below 10%. Valius reflected on his status. Still a beginner at rank C, he hadn't even applied for a promotion to enter Jaiketsu Island. He needed to rise in rank fast and take the official path forward. Then Valius requested to take the B rank promotion test without hesitation. The clerk acknowledged the timing and began checking eligibility. Without delay, she knocked on the door of the person in charge. Permission was necessary to enroll an extra candidate. She explained Valius's background, citing his elite academy performance. Her words drew an intrigued smile from the official inside. Approval came with unsettling enthusiasm. The man's expression shifted, implying expectations far beyond the ordinary. Outside the testing facility, the clerk forced a smile, masking her concern. The towering structure loomed ahead, where the challenge awaited. Just before the test began, Valius was spotted by two familiar faces, Aria and Mycia, who greeted him excitedly. He confirmed that he had come to take the promotion test, explaining his goal to reach Chiketsu Island. A tall man stepped forward, introducing himself as Evolva D, the judge overseeing the day's trial. His presence immediately drew attention, and Valius recognized the name with a trace of suspicion. Observing Evolva closely, the group sensed his strength. His aura hinted at both martial and magical expertise. To their surprise, Evolva revealed he was related to 80, another academy student. Valius processed the connection quietly, confirming their suspicions about the judge's true identity. Evolva D laid out the rules clearly. The swordsman and witch would be the first to engage him in battle simulation mode. Without hesitation, the two stepped forward, focus sharpened on their faces as they prepared for combat. A chilling atmosphere settled as Evolva stood under the moonlight, sword drawn. He welcomed them to attack, charging ahead. The female swordsman closed the distance swiftly, blade aimed with full intent toward her target. She swung fiercely at close range. Meeting Evolva's poised defense head, on determination filled her eyes mid-strike. The swordswoman's attack sliced through the air with force, but Evolva dodged with effortless grace. Frustration built as she narrowed her eyes. Despite her speed, the judge remained calm and smiling. Their weapons clashed mid-swing, sparks bursting between them. She pressed forward, but he matched her blow precisely. Realizing her swordsmanship alone wouldn't suffice, she changed tactics. With a deep breath, she shifted her stance. Launching herself with increased velocity, she spun forward in a burst of raw momentum aimed at his side. The witch gripped her staff tightly, magical power building rapidly as she stared at her unmoving target. In one swift motion, she hurled the spell forward, releasing an enormous surge of energy toward Evolva. The ground shook violently as the blast made impact, engulfing the entire field in a powerful explosion. From the sidelines, the girls gasped for breath, awaiting a reaction. One of them called out confidently, expecting an answer. Through the dense smoke, Evolva stepped out unscathed and smiling, calmly announcing that both had passed. Valius called the next participant forward. Without hesitation, the boy stepped up, rejecting conventional weapons. He held up a simple wooden rod. Valius raised an eyebrow, confused by the odd choice. Confidently smiling, the boy explained that the rod, though plain, was currently his most reliable weapon. From a distance, the girls watched with mixed amusement and admiration. The rod looked unimpressive, but they knew better. With both opponents ready, they stared each other down. Tension built as the match was about to begin. Valius kept his distance, holding nothing but a stick, yet showing no hesitation in his stance. From across the arena, he assessed the threat. His opponent appeared to be a sage, likely preparing magic. Valius narrowed his eyes, calculating the risk. Moving quickly would be the only option. A sudden surge of power erupted. Valius launched his attack before the spell could be completed. Caught off guard, the foe barely reacted. Valius had already closed in, disrupting any chance of a counterattack. Lightning danced across the air as Valius finished the charge. He struck with unrelenting force, bypassing defenses and ending the clash in one swift movement. The enemy's eyes widened in disbelief as Valius blurred forward, his body vanishing from sight, closing in. Valius unleashed a strike with his strange weapon. The unexpected reach bypassed defenses, slashing through with deadly precision before the opponent could reposition. Without hesitation, the opponent retaliated with a heavy lunge. His war cry echoed through the field as he launched a powerful thrust aimed straight at Valius. Reacting swiftly, Valius ducked low and shifted his stance. Sparks scattered around them as both clashed in a burst of energy, their footwork fluid and intense. Before the foe could recover, Valius disappeared again. In a flash, he appeared at the enemy's blind spot. Valius leapt back as the staff narrowly missed his chest. Each swing forced him on defense, and one slip would cost him everything. Suddenly, the opponent launched something into the air. Valius flinched in confusion, tracking the unexpected object with wide eyes. Before he could react, a fierce punch landed squarely in his gut. His body twisted from the force as pain shot through his core. Clutching his side, Valius stumbled. He recognized it instantly. This wasn't a reckless brawler. His opponent had experience. Across from him, the young fighter stood focused, fists raised again. Valius gritted his teeth, realizing this wasn't just a test. Valius clenched his fist, muttering an incantation. Power surged through him as he activated body strengthening and launched forward. But before his strike could land, a brutal punch from the smaller fighter drove deep into his chest, shaking his stance. Winded, Valius faltered, His opponent noticed the break in defense and rushed in. Now was the time to end it. A powerful double palm thrust struck Valius mid-torso, launching him backward with explosive force, his feet lifting off the ground. He spiraled through the air before crashing down hard. Across from him, the young fighter stood calmly, hands still extended in form. The two female observers gasped in shock, eyes wide as the final impact echoed across the arena. They approached cautiously, finding Valius sprawled on the ground, unconscious but still breathing after the intense fight. Eventually regaining consciousness, the proctor let out a pained cough and, with a weak smile, gave his verdict Valius had passed. The young man politely thanked him, and a brief conversation revealed Valius was the same person who had once defeated a girl named 80 during the entrance exam. Without wasting time, Valius turned to the two women and proposed forming a temporary party for a mission to Jiketsu Island. Faced with the girls' blank stares, Valius declined their invitation, citing his desire to stay alive. Nearby, the proctor explained the requirement only those at a rank or higher could travel to Jiketsu Island. He recalled a special rule: academy students could raise their adventurer rank once through the chairman's authority. Offering assistance, the proctor promised to contact the guild and request the chairman's help, acknowledging Valius's overwhelming strength during the B-rank exam. While 80 fumed in protest, insisting the battle didn't count, Valius calmly expressed gratitude, quietly appreciating Evolva's unexpected kindness. Valius watched as the determined girl demanded another match, her stance filled with fiery resolve. Later, Valius relaxed in the bath, the steam rising as he exhaled calmly. He reflected on the encounter, amused by how relentless she had become lately. Her behavior lingered in his mind more than expected. Days later, her voice echoed through the hall as she ran toward him, excitement written all over her face. Without hesitation, she delivered the news he had officially been promoted from C rank to O rank. A new guild card was issued on the spot. She leaned in, voice firm, and revealed the location of Jiketsu Island. Valius nodded, now prepared for what lay ahead. Valius soared swiftly across the open sea, guided by the creature beneath him toward his next destination. His path curved into the sky before plunging downward into a dark, unknown region below the surface. From a distance, a shadowy figure silently observed his descent. Upon landing, Valius stepped forward and found himself face to face with a mysterious woman emerging without warning. Before him stood Jiketsu Island. Barren and vast, he stared ahead, fully aware that the real journey had only just begun. Valius arrived on Jiketsu Island, stepping onto the unfamiliar land with curiosity. Despite its name, the landscape looked peaceful. He scanned the quiet surroundings. Both the island's appearance and the atmosphere conflicted with the dangerous rumors he'd heard. Without warning, a confident woman approached. She questioned their awareness, standing boldly before Valius and his two companions. Suspicious of her sudden appearance, Valius remained alert. The woman continued, remarking that she had seen something strange descend from the sky. His insect companion explained their arrival via a cloud named Nimbus and mentioned their golem material collection. Her cheerful reaction revealed growing interest in them. The woman stepped forward and welcomed Valius with open arms, officially greeting him to Jiketsu Island. As she smiled warmly, something clicked in Valius's memory. Her face was unmistakably familiar to him. He remembered the bright lights and roaring crowds. She was the national idol from his previous life. Hi, Albastine. Trying to confirm his suspicion, Valius hesitantly asked if she was the famous Masen from Ryuku Seikenbu. Her eyes lit up with joy upon hearing his words. Overwhelmed with happiness, she expressed delight that someone recognized her. Valius's companions stared in silent confusion, unsure how to interpret the strange but cheerful exchange. Stepping forward, he openly expressed his admiration, revealing he'd been a devoted fan since her debut. Pleased by his words, she offered him a gift. Valius, drawn in by the warmth, moved closer. His insect companion teased him, wondering if he had already fallen in love. Without hesitation, Valius suddenly attacked the woman, striking with precision and force, shocking his allies. His insect partner watched in horror as the woman collapsed, unable to process the betrayal. Confusion filled the air. The truth was exposed. Valius revealed the horrifying form behind the familiar face. It was a mimic, feeding on memories. His insect companion realized the danger. The creature had taken the form of someone from Valius's previous life to deceive him. A random tune the creature sang was the final clue. Valius had invented that song in his mind, confirming it was a fake. Amid the aftermath, he found a mysterious object. According to his ally, it was a tool usable for transformation magic. The armored companion asked to receive the orb. Valius agreed but curiously questioned its intended purpose. Valius looked ahead, eyes narrowing at the sudden burst of light. Something extraordinary had just occurred. His insect partner pointed out that bright blue wings now adorned their armored ally's back. Filled with pride, The transformed creature beamed with excitement, eager to show off the dazzling form. Everyone admired the striking result. As they resumed their mission, Valius discussed strategy. He explained that certain monsters could be baited using umami seasoning and ingredients harvested from the island. With a goal to gather both materials and experience, Valius listed priorities. The whip tree had to be dealt with first, followed by mine mush, an explosive hazard hidden on the ground. Valius issued a warning to his allies, reminding them that their baited monsters must remain safe. Both companions accepted the task with determination. Launching forward, the armored ally unleashed a barrage of lightning through the forest, striking multiple targets with precision. Meanwhile, the insect partner attacked the whip tree directly, piercing its twisted form and drawing out dark fluid. With both flanks covered, Valius stood confidently before the looming tree creature, sword raised and eyes focused on the next move. Wasting no more time, he lunged into action, initiating his own offensive against the enormous predator as the final phase began. Valius uncapped a small container and released a concentrated burst of fragrant smoke into the air. The smell quickly reached his monster companions. One of them reacted with excitement, clearly drawn in by the aroma. A massive ogre appeared, crashing through the trees and heading straight for Valius. Without hesitation, the creature lunged, preparing a devastating blow with its massive fist. In that instant, a towering armored insect warrior emerged in front of Valius, intercepting the ogre's strike with overwhelming force. The two monsters clashed violently, sending shockwaves through the battlefield as Valius stood ready behind his summoned ally. The armored insect warrior launched a fierce punch straight into the ogre's chest, driving it back forcefully. From above, a smaller flying companion began casting a unique support technique, unleashing spiraling waves of energy. Valius observed silently, eyes focused and unshaken, analyzing the enemy's resistance and the terrain's reaction to magic. After the dust settled, he casually asked about the ogre's strength. The response came quickly, nothing impressive. Soon after, Valius discovered a toxic mushroom. Using detox magic to cleanse his hand, he warned his companions it caused hallucinations and addiction by touch. Calmly, he held it aloft, labeling it as illegal. Valius knelt before a peculiar plant monster, holding the illegal mushroom as an offering. In return for the rare item, he proposed a one-time temporary contract, aiming to gain the creature's cooperation. His summoned allies watched the scene unfold, clearly puzzled. Neither of them understood why he would approach a creature known for its toxins. Without hesitation, Valius responded confidently. His plan was simple: use the contract to create a powerful new ally behind him. The creature's shape began to change. Valius calmly prepared himself for the task ahead. He aimed to summon a strong monster, one capable of tipping the scales in his favor. Instead of relying on brute strength, he turned to knowledge by activating a specialized servant contract spell. A curious creature appeared, its form round and pulsing, with multiple tendrils fanned out like petals. Though it looked harmless, something dangerous brewed within its core. Drawing on his prior knowledge, Valius used an irregular mushroom as the magical catalyst. Now enhanced, the monster emitted a unique pollen that triggered surrounding beasts to go berserk, overwhelming enemies through chaos. Valius observed the battlefield calmly. With his tamed creature now under control, he predicted smoother operations. Suddenly, a massive form burst upward, scattering water as its body surged from beneath the surface. A colossal being emerged, its body towering above the treetops. Its dripping limbs slammed down, shaking the earth. At close range, the creature's grotesque form came into full view. Eyes bulged in unnatural clusters, and several organic tubes lined its face. Pulsing as it exhaled with force, Valius identified the beast without hesitation: reptile kraken. It was a rare creature, useful for crafting evolution blueprints essential to awakening powerful allies. Valius revealed a special token as his armored companion stared silently at its glowing inscription. A shadowy image formed behind them, radiating energy. The summoned reptile kraken loomed nearby. Without warning, the beast lashed out violently. Valius leaped back, narrowly avoiding the crashing limbs as they struck the ground, cracking stone and earth with every blow. Gripping his blade, Valius narrowed his eyes. He knew brute strength alone wouldn't be enough. Precision, timing, and control over the battlefield would be essential against such overwhelming mass. Rising with determination, he launched himself directly at the beast's massive limb, dodging midair while preparing to counter. The monstrous reptile kraken twisted its thick limb, revealing a pulsing core beneath protective flesh layers. With speed and precision, Valius dodged the tentacle's forceful sweep, then readied his sword to strike back. A massive impact followed. Dust exploded, and a worm-like creature tunneled in from the distance, crashing through. As debris settled, Valius vanished into the tunnel, leaving his companions stunned and calling out in panic. Emerging calmly from the beast's lair, Valius analyzed the damage. The foe was weak to slashing attacks. Valius remained composed as his insect companion, Beelzebub, received the order to activate support magic. With confidence, Valius called upon Caucasus. The armored beast stood beside him, surging with anticipation and power. Tentacles flailed wildly as the reptile kraken began to thrash. Reacting to the mounting magical pressure swiftly, Beelzebub flew into the center of the chaos, spiraling between strikes with precise blinding motion. From the middle of the battlefield, waves of magical energy rippled outward, distorting the space around him. Caucasus charged forward, fully enveloped in lightning, signaling the start of a powerful counterattack sequence. A dark silhouette of the reptile kraken loomed as energy surged between both forces. Caucasus advanced without hesitation. After the impact, the battlefield quieted. Burn marks spread across the surface as steam rose from the ground. Valius calmly analyzed the scene, regrouping with his companions. Valius encouraged them to maintain their pace toward the next objective. Caucasus nodded in agreement, ready to move forward. As motivation, Valius revealed their upcoming reward, a special dish made from defeated beasts, crispy beast chips. Valius and his companions launched into battle, cutting down monsters with speed. Shock filled their observer's face. The battlefield cleared, and silence returned. Caucasus relaxed as a distant shadow slowly approached them. From between the trees, a hunched figure emerged. Its movements were unnatural and its aura unsettling. Recognizing the threat, Valius identified it as a zombie. Caucasus, however, wondered if it was lured by the scent of their food. Dismissing the theory, Valius proposed a new plan. He stopped Caucasus and stepped forward with confidence, ready to experiment. Valius activated a unique internal spell, invoking the macrophages within his body to identify any threat. Despite the effort, no response came. He concluded the entity wasn't a viral zombie but an undead type. Caucasus questioned whether the man deserved a peaceful burial. Valius, however, prioritized their mission over sentiment. Rather than destroy it, he saw usefulness in its isolation. The lonely undead could serve a role far above. On the moon, a woman named Artemis received the call. Her connection awakened at once. Artemis responded from afar, her figure appearing beside Varius with cheerful energy. He informed her of the undead, type zombie nearby. Though surprised, she quickly assessed the situation without alarm. The zombie took slow, deliberate steps forward. Its eerie presence emphasized the gravity of what Varius planned. Rather than destroy it, he proposed testing the resurrection spell granted by divine power, shocking Artemis completely. A mysterious man stood alone in the mist, determined to attempt resurrection using the forbidden god. Reaching power, Artemis reacted with disbelief, questioning his goal in reviving a lifeless zombie. She reminded him that such power was beyond the reach of someone with only 4 months of experience. Unfazed by her concern, Valius calmly explained he only wanted to verify his capability. Since the target was merely a zombie, to support his decision, Artemis clarified how the magic worked, restoring vitality, circulating divine energy, and reawakening dormant life functions through precise control. Still, she emphasized the difficulty of managing God-reaching power. Without mastery, the risk was immense. Artemis asked Valius if he could use healing magic. She suggested channeling God-reaching power the same way to improve control. Understanding the concept, Valius quickly grasped the connection and smiled with realization. As Valius prepared, Artemis reflected on his past achievements. He had mastered spatial teleportation within a week of gaining God-reaching power. Focusing his energy, Valius allowed the divine power to flow. It moved through him like a current, swirling with intensity and precision. The power surged out, forming around his hand. Glowing tendrils wrapped around the air, proof that the flow had begun. Energy surged through Valius's arm as he focused. His hand glowing with divine power, Artemis watched silently, anticipation building. Suddenly, the flow intensified beyond expectation. Artemis gasped in shock while Valius's body jolted from the surge. The power spiraled violently. Despite the chaos, Valius remained calm. He sensed the God-reaching power aligning naturally, flowing without effort. Artemis, amazed by his control, confirmed he had succeeded. If a command was nearly accurate, the magic would correct itself. She was astonished. He achieved it on his first try. Encouraged by her words, Valius grinned confidently. He repeated her praise in his mind, a genius and prepared for the true resurrection attempt. Valius reflected on his unusual adaptability. As a tamer accustomed to channeling unstable magic, he had unknowingly refined the precision needed for God-reaching power. With confidence building, he faced the undead subject. The zombie snarled and lunged. As the creature charged, Valius swiftly dodged and countered, slamming it to the ground in a single decisive motion. Without hesitation, he stepped forward. Divine energy pulsed through his arm as he raised his glowing hand over the fallen corpse, determination clear in his eyes. He pressed his palm against the zombie's chest. The word resurrection echoed silently as raw divine power surged from his hand, igniting the moment of truth. The undead's face contorted as God-reaching power surged through its body. Cracks formed across its skin, energy violently reacting. Valius kept his eyes fixed, watching the reaction. Slowly, the decayed mask began to melt away, revealing something human beneath. Bit by bit, the grotesque features faded. Before him now stood a man with softened expression, body restored yet lifeless in posture. Surprised by the stillness, Valius hesitated. He sensed no hostility, but also no movement. Doubt crept in as he stepped closer. He reached out once more and placed his hand over the man's chest. A pulse echoed faintly beneath his palm, a sign of life returning. As light pierced the clouds above, Valius smiled in quiet triumph. The spell had worked. Resurrection was a success. The once undead man slowly stirred, confused and groggy. His gaze drifted around as he muttered, unsure of where he was. A sudden jolt racked his body. He coughed violently, gasping for air as divine energy continued to flow through him. Valius stepped forward, calm and composed. Extending his glowing hand, he asked the man if he was okay and aware of his identity. From the side, Artemis beamed with pride. She remarked how flawlessly the spell had gone and praised Valius for his unbelievable growth. The resurrected man blinked in confusion. Looking around nervously, he asked with a sweat-drenched smile, "Who are you?" Realization slowly dawned on him. Valius watched silently as the man acknowledged his state. He had been turned into an undead. He introduced himself as Tyrion, an rank adventurer from the party Newt's Arrow Hope. Their group had come to the island on an exploration mission. Tyrion recalled how their expedition had begun smoothly. Strong monsters were defeated with teamwork, but their overconfidence led them too deep into hostile territory. They eventually faced a monster far beyond their level. It slaughtered his comrades mercilessly, leaving them with no chance to retreat. Valius paused, then asked carefully if Tyrion and his companions had died near this area. Tyrion quietly confirmed it. To Tyrion's surprise, Valius responded optimistically. He suggested the situation might actually be good news rather than a tragedy. Shocked and confused, Tyrion raised his voice, demanding an explanation for such a bold statement. Valius calmly clarified that he meant no disrespect. He simply believed that if they died nearby, there might be a chance to resurrect Tyrion's fallen allies as well. The idea struck Tyrion with overwhelming emotion. His eyes widened with hope as he gasped, "Is that true?" Valius took a deep breath. His eyes narrowed as he stepped forward and activated the resurrection ritual. Mystic energy roared around him. A swirling vortex of divine light enveloped the area as Tyrion watched. Stunned, recognizing the incantation, Tyrion gasped in disbelief. It was a spell known only to high-ranking holy sages. Holy attention. Beams of light surged skyward as Valius stood firm, channeling raw power into the heavens. The surrounding forest trembled. Suddenly, one of the fallen stirred. Muscle flexed under tattered robes, and lifeless eyes regained their glint. A grunt escaped his lips. Dark silhouettes emerged from the smoke, dragging heavy limbs as the resurrection spell brought fallen warriors back to life. Valius stood confidently as ominous silhouettes emerged from the mist. His companion froze, sensing something unnatural. From the fog, a clawed figure approached, offering a dangerous method to revive fallen allies. Fear gripped the other man as he realized the risk. Before anyone could react, Valius surged forward, slicing through the darkness with blinding speed. The sudden strike left the observer stunned. The massive creature fell, cleanly cleaved in two. Eyes wide, the man stared at Valius, unable to believe such power came from him. Yet the threat wasn't over. More monstrous beings advanced, their hollow roars shaking the ground. Valius narrowed his gaze, ready to face them. Valius recalled the transformation pattern. When humans turn undead, they either become zombies or evolve into zombie lords. Without hesitation, he dashed forward, targeting a lone creature ahead. Speed and resolve sharpened his every move. As he closed the gap, the skeletal monster lunged with claws extended, aiming directly for his neck. In one swift motion, Valius twisted mid-run, narrowly dodging the attack and countering with a clean strike. His momentum carried him into a spinning leap, blade ready, as another monster approached the startled man behind him. Valius landed cleanly after a decisive strike. The monster behind him collapsed, split clean through the waist. Tyrion froze, his wide eyes locked on the scene. He hadn't expected such overwhelming force from Valius. Smoke curled around the boy's blade as he stood composed. Tyrion could only think he's incredibly strong. As they regrouped, Valius turned to Tyrion and asked a chilling question about the zombie's clothing. Recognition dawned on Tyrion's face. The sight triggered a memory, and he whispered in disbelief. Staring into the mist, two powerful undead figures advanced with purpose. Their twisted forms bore names once familiar: Plex and Ragam. Tyrion trembled as another face appeared: Layla. Now among the undead, recognition shattered his voice with despair. Valius stepped forward. Calm and composed magic swirled around his arm as he launched toward the enemy. Striking mid-charge, he landed a heavy blow before the resurrection spell could complete. The undead figure staggered as the attack connected. Valius's entire body surged with force. The enemy's spell fractured under impact. Valius stood firm as a ghastly figure lunged forward. Behind him, light surge magic pulsed from a comrade's body. A burst of force knocked the enemy away. The woman collapsed. Her glowing chest dimming, Valius shielded her from further harm while another ally crashed nearby. 3 bodies lay still, drained of life. Valius knelt, his arm glowing with remnants of divine magic relief, flickered across his face as he confirmed the spell's success. Moments later, their eyes opened slowly. Confusion spread as consciousness returned. The group sat up, dazed and unsure. Recognition dawned. Jaketsu Island? One asked. Valius smiled in joy. They had truly returned. Confused by the mention of resurrection, the party questioned what had truly occurred during their unconsciousness. Before doubt could settle in, then Valius's actions were praised. He had saved them with a rare technique. The leader of the revived party, proud and relieved, expressed his gratitude with heartfelt appreciation. Valius considered the possibilities. These skilled rank adventurers could support the spread of his knowledge. A sudden warning shattered the calm. From the distance, a threat was fast approaching their position. Panic surged as the armored warriors shouted. The creature charging toward them radiated a presence unlike anything encountered before. Within moments, the enormous monster landed with a quake. Its armored body gleamed under the light, dwarfing the adventurer, who stood frozen in shock. An intense stare locked eyes with the intruders. No movement came, but the tension suffocated the battlefield. Everyone knew this was no ordinary threat. Recognition followed quickly. One adventurer cried out its name: Demon Beetle Emperor. Caucasus. Despite the danger, Valius stepped forward with calm clarity. He addressed the others. They had been mistaken. He was no great sage. His strength came from something else entirely. Valius revealed his true identity without hesitation. Behind him, the towering monster stood silently under his command. The group stared in disbelief. None had expected the cheerful boy to be a powerful tamer. In a world where strength defined one's worth, the tamer class was dismissed as the weakest. Valius, reborn with memories from another life, chose the tamer path deliberately. His strength and presence shocked even seasoned warriors, who couldn't believe someone like him chose such a role. Rather than boast, Valius made a proposition. He would ensure their safe escape from Jaketsu Island. But in return, his sincerity and competence had already earned their respect. Without hesitation, the group accepted his offer. Just as the alliance formed, Valius recalled an important detail: the monster they had been fighting hadn't been defeated. The armored beast unleashed a fierce punch, sending the monstrous creature flying through the forest clearing. Recovering midair, the beast growled defiantly, then darted off the ground with startling speed and rage as the enemy was flung farther away. The armored guardian watched in silence, sensing something was off. Meanwhile, Valius analyzed the situation. Dark figures came to mind. There was a strong chance they were on Jaketsu Island. Recognizing a tactical opportunity, the guardian advised caution. If Valius was correct, this could work to their advantage. Valius's eyes gleamed with ambition. 2 unknown awakening materials were within reach, and he intended to claim them. As others noticed his absence, they questioned the whereabouts of Caucasus. The answer was simple: experience farming. Tamers possessed a rare ability. They shared experience with their familiars. When awakened, that bond multiplied gains drastically. Understanding the mechanic, one adventurer realized the strategy. Their visit wasn't random, it was to level up fast. Though driven, Valius admitted the truth. His ultimate power, still incomplete, couldn't yet be used against the coming threat. While riding his summoned cloud, Valius encouraged the group to move at their own pace. He focused on conserving energy as his body gradually recovered from earlier strain. A sudden cry broke the calm. One of the knights warned that a massive creature was rapidly approaching. Everyone tensed as the air grew heavier with pressure. Valius spotted a dark figure advancing through the trees. Thundering footsteps pounded the ground, shaking leaves loose as the monster's silhouette came into view. An enormous beast exploded from the forest with a deafening roar. The two forces clashed. Valius launched a swift counterattack. his enhanced body delivering a powerful blow just before the creature's strike could connect. The impact of Valius's strike sent the massive grizzly bear flying, tearing through the air in a wide arc. With the battle won, Valius calmly instructed the group to collect the materials. The others stood in disbelief, remembering how powerless they'd once been against that monster. Suddenly, a strange silence fell across the forest. The aftermath of the clash left behind only a crater and fading echoes. Valius scanned the area. To his surprise, the odd-eyed grizzly bear had vanished completely, no remains. No trace. Panic rose among the team, confused and alarmed. They questioned what had just occurred. Something wasn't right. Valius stood still, eyes narrowing. A subtle shift in the air confirmed what he already sensed: they had arrived. Without hesitation, he called out to his trusted companions. From the forest's edge, a dark figure emerged. The towering demon stepped into the clearing, muscles tense and eyes gleaming with sinister delight. Facing the powerful foe, Valius remained composed. The demon, familiar with his name, approached with slow, deliberate steps. A chilling voice rang out, echoing across the clearing. The enemy knew him and called his name with a twisted grin. The two demons, Kinkaku and Ginkaku, laughed maniacally. One held a mysterious gourd, its power surging ominously. In an instant, the gourd activated. A vortex pulled Valius toward it. One shout too late, his name was called. Stunned and enraged, the girl demanded answers. The demons mocked her, amused that Valius had been so unlucky. Revealing their names, the brothers explained the gourd's curse. Those who failed to respond when named would be sealed inside. Determined to act, the girl rallied the others. With resolve burning in her eyes, she declared they would save Valius. The girls stood her ground, confronting the demon who mocked their attempt to rescue Valius. Inside the gourd, Valius floated above a pool of lethal acid, capable of dissolving high-rank monsters. A monstrous figure stood confidently, revealing a gourd filled with the world's strongest acid, potent enough to dissolve high-ranking monsters without resistance. Nearby, a knight watched in horror as he recognized the one before him, Valius, someone he never expected in such a terrifying state. Valius burst into laughter, his voice echoing as he announced the acid's name, fluoroantimonic, the deadliest of all. Without hesitation, the swirling acid consumed everything it touched, including monstrous remains, leaving behind only distorted splashes and swirling liquid trails. A massive vortex formed at the center, pulling bones, debris, and energy into its core, leaving the battlefield eerily silent and cleared in moments. Magic energy gathered around Valius's feet as he stepped confidently into the swirling acid terrain, unshaken. He had deliberately entered the gourd's core, braving its deadly contents, shielded only by a powerful barrier. With a calm gaze, he observed the sample in his hand, now fully extracted and contained. Far away, enemies mocked his efforts, imagining his face contorted in terror. Unaware of his success, however, their expressions shifted the moment they sensed his return. Each face stiffened with fear and sweat. Valius activated spatial teleport, instantly appearing behind the towering demon with a burst of light. A knight gasped in disbelief, watching as Valius faced the horned giant without hesitation or fear. The demon grinned mockingly, unaware of the imminent strike that would follow in the next second. Without hesitation, then Valius launched himself forward, driving his blade into the enemy's exposed chest with force. Momentum carried him past the collapsing foe, leaving behind a trail of blood and stunned silence. Valius's allies cried out his name in shock as they witnessed his sudden reappearance. The enemy's expression twisted in disbelief. Without uttering a word, Valius raised his blade. Acid-coated steel gleamed as blood splashed behind him, the result of a precise strike. Fury consumed the demon's face. Muscles tensed and teeth bared as rage overtook reason, shouting in blind retaliation. His companion's defeat ignited a wild charge. The remaining demon sprinted forward, shouting vengeance for Kinkaku and swearing to end Valius. With a powerful leap, the beast launched an attack. His punch met Valius's guard mid-air, sending shockwaves across the battlefield as both clashed. Valius clenched his fists tightly, bracing himself as he realized his opponent's strength surpassed all expectations. A fierce blow landed against his body, hurling him across the battlefield while his ally watched in shock. Dust and shockwaves filled the air, blurring the scene. The watching knight couldn't follow their movements anymore. From within the chaos, another enemy emerged, gritting his teeth in frustration as the battle intensified. Leaping high into the sky, the roaring giant prepared a crushing attack. Valius stood firm, waiting below. The knight collapsed to the ground, frozen in panic as the shadow of destruction loomed closer. With flawless timing, Valius dashed in and scooped her up, leaping away just as impact struck. They landed safely at a distance. Without wasting time, the knight urged nearby allies to evacuate immediately. While the others prepared to flee, Valius turned back toward the battlefield, ready to hold the line alone. As his allies ran, Valius stood his ground. Magic gathered in his fists while he mentally prepared for the next encounter. The demon's muscles surged with rage, his entire body trembling with raw power as he prepared to charge. Shouting vengeance for his fallen comrade, he dashed forward. Valius crouched low, bracing for the incoming blow. A crushing punch landed directly, slamming into Valius. The force sent shockwaves outward, shaking the earth beneath them. Despite the impact, Valius remained standing at the center of the blast. Energy rippled violently around his frame. Though pain surged through his arms, he maintained his stance. Valius knew he could only endure one more strike. Then Valius stared up calmly, unfazed by the massive fist descending toward him from above behind the charging demon. A colossal armored figure emerged, silently preparing to strike with overwhelming force. Caucasus descended from above, muscles tense, as he drove his fist forward with overwhelming momentum. From the forest's edge, Valius and his group watched in awe. The armored Tamer calmly acknowledged his partner's late arrival. Caucasus twisted his upper body with precision, tightening his stance. His burning eyes locked onto the opponent, calculating the blow's path with deadly focus. With a deafening roar, he launched himself like a bullet. The air cracked as he tore through it, fury blazing from his face. Impact followed instantly. His powerful punch connected, driving the armored enemy back as a flurry of blows erupted in rapid succession. Caucasus clenched his fist, his face tense with rage and determination. Every muscle surged with power as he prepared his next crushing blow. The punch connected brutally with the enemy's armored helmet, the force distorting the air. His roar echoed as the impact shattered the defense. Shock overtook the armored foe's face. Unable to react, he was caught squarely by the full weight of the attack, thrown into disarray. Without pause, Caucasus launched another attack, muscles twisting mid-motion. His massive arms swept forward, slamming the enemy backward with earth. Rattling speed, the blow hurled the armored figure across the battlefield, carving a path through the dirt. Caucasus let out a deep guttural roar as pain surged through his body. His chest heaved while steam and tension rippled across his bloodied form. Struck by fear, the fallen enemy stared wide-eyed, realizing he was outmatched. The realization sank in this creature was stronger and more durable than anything he had faced. Meanwhile, a tiny flying beast buzzed around frantically, demanding attention. Back on his feet, Caucasus declared revenge for Kinkaku. His voice thundered with rage as he vowed not to let a single enemy escape the battlefield. Across the field, a cloaked demon responded with chilling words. He promised more than death, torment, and destruction. Caucasus's body was reduced to a horrifying state, his skin melting away as the acid ate through him. Bones began to show beneath dripping flesh. Shock overtook his expression. He struggled to comprehend what was happening, his voice trembling in disbelief as he stammered through the pain. Above him, the tiny flying creature observed with curiosity. With childlike excitement, it identified the substance as fluoroantimonic acid, marveling at its destructive power. Hovering calmly, the creature revealed it had altered the acid's properties. Only a small amount had been volatilized, yet the damage exceeded expectations. The attack reached its peak as the acid fully coated Caucasus. Stunned by the aftermath, the girl stood speechless. Her eyes widened as she whispered, barely believing what she'd just witnessed. From afar, the battlefield lay quiet. Valius stood beside his mighty tamed beast, calm and composed. Her gaze dropped to the remains of the defeated enemy. The monster's melted form was a reminder these tamed creatures weren't just strong, they were overwhelming. Doubt crept into her thoughts. Could beings of such raw power really follow someone weaker? She knew Valius had grown thanks to shared experience points, but even with his strength, he still wasn't as strong as the monster he commanded. Still processing everything she had witnessed, the armored girl cautiously approached Valius with a hesitant expression and a question. She asked directly, how could he possibly control monsters far stronger than himself? It was a mystery she couldn't ignore. Valius smiled and confidently pulled something out. It's thanks to this, he declared, revealing a glowing item pulsing with energy. Excitement broke out among the monsters. The beetle and flying companion eagerly gathered around, their eyes sparkling. I've been waiting for this, one shouted joyfully. To her shock, the secret wasn't magic or brute force but food. Specifically, a reward called beast chips. The armored beetle monster reflected on his past. Before meeting Valius, eating had no meaning. Now, even chips awakened something new inside him, true appetite. She, wide-eyed with amazement, realized how much had changed. If others knew this, the perception of tamers would be rewritten entirely.